Sunday morning, people. I'm trying to tap into a new audience here. The early bird special here. I mean, we'll see. Thought I'd just do another episode. Well, it's raining again, so we're here. I don't know. I guess I could be writing, doing something offline, but I need that instant hit of validation, of feeling accomplished, building my online. I lost a subscriber yesterday. I'm not sure what happened there. Whatever happened there. Whoever unsubscribed to me, you are a coward. Maybe I should go in the other room. I feel like I'm maybe, I don't know, annoying my neighbors with this. Um, we were in this room yesterday. I feel like I have to be quiet in here. Does that feel quiet to you? Let me check on my. So you got that two phone life. Um, did people see Colbert? This is all I do is comment on what the fuck Colbert is doing. Colbert did some fucking public access show in Michigan. Okay. Public access show. Okay, that sounds good. Uh, he's stealing my public access swag. I mean, did he fly to fucking Michigan? Like literally, doesn't he have better shit to do? He did. It was all for the bit. I guess he knows that it's all gonna show up on fucking YouTube anyway, and so he can really make his show anywhere. All as long as he has his YouTube page. I mean, how many fucking subscribers does Colbert have on YouTube? And does the YouTube page go with him, or does CBS keep the YouTube page? Let's check it out. It's Stephen Colbert, The Late Show, Colbert Late Show, 10.7 million subscribers. Hello Goodbye video got 2.6 million views, which is, that's a lot of views, but it's not 20 million. So I don't know. Does CBS retain custody of the YouTube page? This fucking does Colbert have to start from scratch, building his YouTube painstakingly, one subscriber at a time, like me, out here in the free market of low commitment content, low investment content. What the hell? I mean, you might as well be. It's all cheap. Let's go on this just for a change of pace. So yeah, I got that two phone lifestyle here. Let's see, do I need to bring that fucking ladder in here? Sit up. Can probably get it to balance on that, I suppose. Oh, let's try that. I think there's anything here I need to hide or be ashamed of or anything. Uh, it's all legal. In any case, okay, one thing I did want to immediately, well, no one's watching, but I immediately want to get to this big issue. This is something that's part of the Twitter discourse. Here, let me see if I can just pop up the actual tweet. It was a Subway Takes thing. And people, my fans, people who watchers of the stream know that I hate on Subway Takes regularly. I don't know. I just think it's funny. I don't necessarily hate Subway Takes per se. I do remember I like the guy's show about the cab drivers better than Subway Takes. And Subway Takes, somebody had to win social media, I guess. But okay, so anyway, here's the take, Subway takes with Kareem. White people should not be allowed to sit on stoops in Bed-Stuy. This woman, she said she's lived in Bed-Stuy, I don't know, for like 15 years or something. And she says white people, this is her Subway take. And the idea with Subway takes is you pick, it's like Kill Tony, but of takes. And so you get one take and you pick like whatever your strongest, most controversial take, and you just boom, give it right into the Metro card. Although they phased out Metro cards, so I'm not sure if that prop is still going to retain relevance or not. I guess it's a creative spin on everybody who does these fucking. First of all you need to do a talk show now is you just go out on some random New York street in Manhattan and you have a lapel microphone that you hold to your fucking mouth and you like interview somebody with traffic in the background. That's every fucking New York like TikTok. If you want to seem legitimate in your like IG reels. Just go to like, East Broadway or somewhere West Broadway, somewhere near Washington Square. You can do it in Washington Square and just film yourself with your little lapel microphone. What's your take? Oh, I don't think. And so what? Ethan Hawke was on fucking Subway Takes. Now there's like famous people and shit. I've known a few people who have been on Subway Takes. I think Omkar was on Subway Takes. Which is not a surprise, really. They should have Sparrow on Subway Takes. I bet Sparrow would fucking crush on Subway Takes. He would probably have one of the best ones. It'd be perfect for him. Uh, I don't know what my Subway Take would be. I guess I have some ideas. We'll see when they ask me to do it. Maybe then I'll really think hard about it. But we'll see. I haven't been so far. I haven't been asked to be on any. I feel like I don't know. I have this weird. Like I of course who everybody wants to be on that stuff, right? I mean, isn't that the point of trying to get attention? I have this weird like bipolarity when it comes to wanting attention like that. Like of course I'd love to be on fucking Subway Takes, but at the same time like I feel such resentment that they haven't asked me that I'm just like projecting. That's the crazy thing about this Orson Welles book. I finished it today. The My Lunches with Orson book. And even he's got so much resentment towards John Houseman. It's fucking crazy. He hates John Houseman. The idea that John Houseman won an Academy Award, I think John Houseman won for what, best supporting actor or something for The Paper Chase. And Orson Welles, I don't think ever won an Academy Award like in competition. Maybe he got an honorary one, although he probably didn't even get that. Did Orson Welles? Did it? I think maybe Citizen Kane won Best Original Screenplay or something. Did it win one Academy Award? He may have had one. Let's see. Did Orson Welles win an Oscar? Best Original Screenplay. Okay, there you go. So he did have an Oscar. Oh, he won two. He got an honorary Academy Award in 1971. Okay, so, but he was pissed that John Houseman got one too. He said, if you would have bet in their early days, which one of them would have had an Oscar? None of them would have guessed John Houseman. He was like a fucking producer or something. And so, he's old. He's widely considered one of the greatest film directors alive, and yet he's still fucking got a chip on his shoulder about petty shit, all kinds of petty shit they didn't ask him to do, or people passing over hit working with him. Uh, he really is derogatory towards short kings. Orson Welles fucking hates short people. He calls them dwarfs. There's certain actors, we won't name any names, but he refers to them as dwarfs. He won't work with dwarfs. And he said Al Pacino and Dustin Hoffman were too ethnic looking. Uh, so he's old fashioned, let's shall we say. I mean, he was 6'3" and a half, I guess. That's probably a big part of Orson Welles' grandeur and kind of legend, and how he was able to sort of hack his way into an unprecedented, he was just a very impressive, and he kind of arrived fully formed, and he had a sense of propriety or entitlement that led him to do extraordinary things. The world's broadcast, that was like viral before viral. That was like something that's it's like they talk about it in history books, right? The 1937 War of the Worlds broadcast, like where people thought aliens were actually fucking. There's not that many media things that are like in goddamn history books. The Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, there's not many. What are they? Very few. Uh, Maybe Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show, and then the fucking War of the Worlds, basically. There haven't been too many. Maybe some kind of Michael Jackson thing. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, this woman's subway take is why did I start talking about Orson Welles? Well, I just jumped into I finished the book today. I finished reading My Lunches with Orson. He died shortly after Henry Yaglum sort of instinctively stopped bringing the tape recorder to their lunches. And then he died shortly after that in October 1985. Same year I was born. I was born January 1985. Orson Welles died October. So we were alive a little bit at the same time. Well, Henry Yaglum was recording their lunches. Orson Welles talking about how he won't work with dwarves. He says he doesn't hate them; they hate him. He said there was never a dictator that wasn't a dwarf. Which what about Trump? I mean, Trump is supposedly 6'3" or something. He was at one point. Now he's like, I don't know. He's sort of shrunk in his old age, as Orson Welles did. Orson Welles said he was 6'3" and a half, but he was 6'2" when they were discussing it. And so, God, am I oversaturating the market? See, I guess my people are asleep. They're hungover. They're not used to me broadcasting this early on a fucking weekend. I just thought I'd do a bonus. I'll just do 2 hours. This isn't going to be another marathon or anything. Don't worry. It's Memorial Day. I guess people are probably out doing shit. They're out boating and drinking Miller Lite or Budweiser and American flag cans. It's Bob Dylan Day for Memorial Day tomorrow. Sign up. We're in the Red Room. Uh, okay, so let's get to this subway take. The idea that white people should not sit on stoops. Well, apparently, this woman who it's probably trending or something. This woman whose take it is like extremely privileged. Her parents are doctors or some shit like that. Let's see what the fuck it says. There's John C. Riley on Subway Takes. Uh, I mean, good for him for figuring out a gimmick that works. That little Metro card. Subway Take seems to be about 50% made up racism from people who are slightly not white and living on their parents' credit card in New York City. Uh, I mean, Twitter is incredibly racist now, so yeah. I mean, I guess I would say I don't disagree with her. I think that like the gentrification. I complain about it all the fucking time on here. Anybody who watches my stream knows that I bitch about the gentrification in Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy and this fucking neighborhood for that matter. It's the same thing here. The people that live in this neighborhood or have for the last few decades are black and Hispanic. and there is like a bunch of fucking white art school kids that live here that like sort of, you know, there's definitely awareness that they are gentrifiers, that they are causing everybody's rent to go up, and they're displacing the people. And so, yeah, I mean, my whole qualm with it is these are the same fucking people that are just like giving you this endless fucking guilt trip about colonization and blah, 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 and woke sort of performative politics. And their careers are all bundled up in that. And yet they are the colonizers. They are the fucking people who are displacing poor people, basically, poor people of color. And so this lady's not any different. You know, it's not just white people. Like, yeah, like white people are the most obvious offenders. I mean, there's a lot of discussion on this post about, well, this neighborhood was traditionally white. White people built the neighborhood, and then like they left when there was like white flight and urban renewal and all that shit in the whatever 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. All the white people left. And so, well, you know, it's traditionally it's white people built it, and so it's actually our fucking land. And it's like I don't really see it that way. I mean, these people have an investment, and they've they've lived here for decades and decades and decades, and now all of a sudden, real estate developers and people who have been priced out of Manhattan, or, you know, a lot of people don't even want to live in Manhattan anymore, to be honest. A lot of people, the way that they conceive of Manhattan is it's like work island. It's like, oh, Manhattan sucks. It's lame. It's boring people. And it's like, it's where I go to work. Like, fuck Manhattan. They don't want to live there. It wouldn't even occur to them to try to live anywhere in Manhattan. Upper West Side, maybe Times Square, but like everybody wants to live out here. They want to live in some fucking like slum off of an elevated fucking train that never stops running. Which you know, it's nice out here to be honest. Everything is out here. All of the fucking like edgy EDM fucking venues and like all of the late night rave culture and shit like that is out here. All of the fucking like people on ketamine or Molly and shit, they live in fucking Bushwick. They live in Ridgewood. It's a real estate scheme. You know, there are definitely boomers who saw money. They said, "Hey, we can flip these fucking neighborhoods and make shitloads of money." And so let's get our kids to move in, and you know, we'll get their rich parents to pay for it by buying them condos. The boomers get to keep the wealth. They get to park it in these investment properties, and their kids have a place to live. It's a win-win-win for the financial, you know, boomer fucking. That's all they care about is just economizing, financializing every fucking thing. People are so fucking obsessed with fucking money. It's disgusting. And ripping us off. You know, the boomers have made a lot of fucking money flipping these urban areas. Like 30 years ago, this was a fucking ghetto. It was probably dangerous for fucking white people to even be here. And certainly Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights. You know, all right. Certainly Bed-Stuy. I mean, it's where fucking Biggie is from and shit. Like, it was a violent, dangerous place. And so I just find it a little bit personally a hard pill to swallow to have all of these people like lecturing you about privilege and white people are colonizers and blah 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 and all the white people are bad and men are bad and meanwhile and just making sort of uninteresting work. All of the fucking garbage that's been forced down our throats, it just sucks. It's just garbage on both sides. You know, the woke garbage that they sort of like used as a front for their arts organizations to sort of make them look like they're part of the resistance and in opposition to the fascism and everything. And the reaction on the fucking right by all these dumbass like writers that are super troll white people, all of the downtown, it all sucks. It's all just like obvious kind of routes to take about how to oppose whatever the perception of what's going on is. And so, this person falls into the fucking woke cartel or whatever, where it's like they probably have some kind of fucking cushy life. They probably have all kinds of fucking opportunities and they grew up privileged and they're able to afford to live in Bed-Stuy or Crown Heights. And yet, because they're a person of color, because they're not white, they think they get a pass. They think they're not a gentrifier. Whereas, like, white people didn't totally invent racism, and you don't have to necessarily be white to be a fucking gentrifier. A lot of these people are goddamn Europeans. A lot of these people that you hear are like buying brownstones and Bed-Stuy and starting businesses. A lot of them are fucking bookstores. How many goddamn book launches are there at The Word is Change or whatever the fuck that bookstore is? There's all these bookstores on Bedford Nostrand. It's like those are anchors of displacement. Those are the first thing that goes into a neighborhood that like the white people are going to take over and the fancy people. And these are the people that are really privileged. These people whose parents could afford to send them to fucking art school or Bard or whatever, where they learn these fucking like code of ethics about pronouns and shit like that. And they are extremely privileged people, and yet they are cosplaying like they're victims. And at the same time, they are fucking displacing people who are actually impoverished and just stealing their land basically. And where are these people supposed to go? They have to move out of New York. They can't afford it anymore. A lot of the people I know who are like native New Yorkers fucking moved because they can't afford it. Like they moved to Philadelphia or something. And so it's a bunch of rich pricks who are fucking giving us these lectures like this. White people shouldn't be able to sit on stoops and bed. I mean, it is disgusting. It's disgusting to walk around Bed-Stuy and Herbert von King and stuff and see like white. These people should be in Disneyland or something. They're just like white tourists. It's like you people don't give a fuck about anything. You just take whatever the hell you want, and it's all about money. If you have the money, you get whatever you want. And so it's just like the wealth inequality has exploded. These people have all benefited from having rich parents, from having their parents rewrite all the tax code, rewrite all the inheritance tax, whatever the hell it is. So they get to keep all their money, so they get to transfer it. And so I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's like the white people are probably going to take all of Brooklyn. Flatbush, right? It's happening in Flatbush. Brooklyn College is out there. There's a lot of fucking gentrifier people that go to Brooklyn College. And so they'll probably move all through Midwood and shit. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way to Brighton Beach. If Brooklyn just becomes this sort of like enclave of Whole Foods people, Trader Joe. I mean, there's a Whole Foods near Avenue A. I think I heard what they're putting a Whole Foods in Bushwick or something. Where is it? It's by Myrtle Wyckoff, I think. Is there a Whole Foods in Crown Heights yet? I mean, there's a lot of like fancy restaurants and shit. Let's see. Okay, there is a Whole Foods. Okay, I guess is that technically Bushwick? It's sort of by Montrose. It's on Grand Street off Bushwick Avenue. That's the Grand stop. There's a Whole Foods there. I mean, that's not really deep Bushwick yet. Oh boy, I've got nobody watching. I'm giving this gold. This is all gold social commentator. commentary. Did I oversaturate the fucking market yesterday? I just streamed for 2 fucking hours yesterday, so what else could I possibly have to fucking yap about? I mean, the answer is there's so much. There's just endless subject matter. Uh, I had to rebuff this woman's Subway take, obviously. Everybody on fucking Twitter has an opinion about it. I guess it's a lightning rod for people to weigh in about race and sort of, I don't know, it's a chance for them to be anti woke or something. But that's what Subway takes us for, I guess, is to spur conversation, spur dialogues. That's what the algorithm, that's engagement. These people are sharing it, these people are sharing it. They have a take on the take. This person has a take on your take on the take. And so it just keeps getting uh viral is like infectious. It's, I guess, that's success. That's reproductive uh multiplication exponentially. That's what going viral is, or something. Is just like there's like an excited frenzy of reshares and Subway takes. It's like a lot of these viral accounts or whatever. It's like it's a gimmick, like Hot Ones or whatever. It's like the gimmick is they're eating hot wings. It's just a fucking talk show. It's just another fucking, and the guy's a good interviewer, he's done his research or this or that, but like the gimmick is why people watch it and why people go on it. They go, "Oh, that sounds interesting. It's fucking you eat hot wings." I don't get why Hot Ones is so popular. I really don't. To me, that is fucking stupid as hell, but I mean, even Charlie Rose kind of has a gimmick. Charlie Rose's gimmick is like that black, severe kind of environment they're in. It was such a gimmick that even Wes Anderson, right, put it in Royal Tenenbaums. Charlie Rose just felt like it represented this kind of heavy New York power lunch conversation or something. Charlie Rose can go toe to toe with Henry Kissinger or David Lynch or Norman Mailer or people from a bunch of different Kofi Annan. He can sexually assault, his staff. He got canceled as fuck. But Subway takes, it's just a gimmick. It's an immediate branding, and it's a funny context for a talk show, right? It's like it sort of makes sense. You talk on the subway, it's sort of their seats, the background, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of movement, other people, so there's a lot of stimulation. And then that Metro card. Once again, it's just that stupid. If you really want to go viral, you need to hold a fucking. I should probably do that during this. As dumb as that sounds, I'll bet a lot more people would watch if I was like holding a stupid microphone. My clips would probably, or like this just isn't branded enough. It's kind of, especially on YouTube, it's just like, this just looks like anybody could just shoot this and recreate this. There isn't any particular visual kind of signature per se. Uh, Unlike Subway takes. And like I was saying, it's like Kill Tony. Kill Tony, you get 1 minute, and then they make a decision. Subway takes, it's perfect for immediate viral attention grab. What's your take? Bam, here it is. One sentence. This is my fucking take. I don't think white people. I'm a racist. Here's my take. I don't think white people should have rights. Uh, Well, she's also trying to like distance herself from her own privilege and her own guilt. You know, it is kind of like a subterfuge. People who grew up wealthy or privileged, their parents were doctors, whatever, they can sort of distract from their own advantage. There's nothing that fucking wealthy people like more, or some of them anyway, than claiming that like they earned it. They didn't have any help. And what am I going to eat now? Gluten free mini cupcakes, Trader Joe's. Gluten. Are they dairy free? Fuck. Maybe they're not dairy free. Contains milk and eggs. Oh well. Oops, I didn't know that. Not a huge deal. I think it's just in the frosting. No big deal. Um, and they get special consideration for jobs and things like that because they're not white people. And so obviously white people are, I mean, don't get me wrong, like walking around this neighborhood, it makes me fucking sick to see like fat white people from Florida like waddling around with like their fanny packs like it's fucking Orlando or something. It's just so lame because you're seeing like goth, freak son or daughter or whatever, and then you see their parents, and their parents are just like these totally fat ass like Bill O'Reilly people. It's like, yeah, this is why New York sucks now. Because the only people that can afford to live here are people with rich parents, and their parents are all Republicans. So they're basically Republicans. They're all like Chapel Rowan. They're super stingy. They're super privileged. They all went to Grammy fucking camp or whatever when they're 15. They all went to creative writing camp when they were fucking 16 or whatever. They may have even gotten a scholarship, even though their parents are fucking rich. And so there's like all of the working people are like people that were immigrants that were born here, work in restaurants, work in the service industry. I'm more like one of those people, to be honest. I'm basically like an immigrant here myself. I'm a transplant. I'm not like those other people from Ohio, okay? Uh, my parents didn't just buy me a fucking condo or pay my rent or anything like that. Whatever. I don't give a fuck if anybody watches. It's easier to do this when no one is watching. And then people watch it later and be like, wow, what a great show. You don't really need to see it live. There's no chat. I don't want any participation really. I just want to explore, deep feelings that shouldn't be explored on the internet. No, I mean, I want to get to some deeper truth here. This isn't just some jack. I mean, does Theo Vaughn? I guess he does that. That's why people like Theo Vaughn because he's deep. Uh, or I'm probably just perceived as like smug, uh, know it all, out of my depth, not really knowing what I'm talking about. I'm a cultural commentator. I'm a and I'm a critic. This is really about criticism of life. And what the hell did I watch anything last night? I watched a little more of that Shakespeare show with Tim Curry. Once again, I recommend, please, if you're on YouTube, it's on the Shakespeare Network. There's a YouTube page, the Shakespeare Network. And so, Colbert should be in movies and shit. He really is an actor. He would be good in movies, I think. He'd probably be better in movies and TV roles. Like, remember him on Curb Your Enthusiasm where he, like, hexes Larry? That was before he was sort of, like, really famous. He'd be good. He'd be good in, like, small parts. And be way better than, like, Ed Helms. I mean, look at Steve Carell. Steve Carell's the biggest fucking movie star there is, practically. It's fucking sad. Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell were like locked, partners their whole rise up through Second City. They were scene partners. They were almost like interchangeable in a way. They're destined. They're twins. The Stevens, the even Stevens. Man, I can't believe I'm not saying anything else till somebody starts watching this. I'm not throwing this away. Okay. I guess it's just too early. Everybody's the fuck asleep or something. That means no one is ever gonna fucking watch this. I mean, I think my last stream got 18 hours of view time, which, like, it's more about that. 18 hours, if the stream is 2 hours long, that means 9 people watched all of it. It's not bad. You try getting 9 people listening to you talk for 2 hours. Or I think you got 40 clicks. Let's say 40 people watched even amounts of it. It was 2 hours, so 40 people, you got 18 hours. I don't even know. What is that? 18 divided by 40. Fuck, I don't know. I can't even begin to. Well, 18 times 60 is what? Like 10,000 or something. Divided by 40 is. This is rough. I'm doing this very roughly. This might be way off. 10,000 divided by 40, that's like 250 maybe. So 250 minutes. That means 40 people watched it for. No, that can't be right. 24 minutes? No, that's probably way off. I don't know. I don't know. This is horrible. I'm like massacring this like math on my stream. I'm good at math. I'm better at math than in any case. It's not as bad as my view count might lead you to believe. Like 18 hours, that's not bad for a 2 hour thing. Let's say people watched an hour of it. That means 18 people watched an hour of it. Like, imagine doing an hour set at a club to 18 people. That wouldn't be, totally not successful thing to do. I mean, granted, nobody paid money for this or anything, but these are the metrics of success. It means something. I don't know. I have people come up to me in person and tell me that they watch this from time to time, and they're always interesting people. I think as a entertainer or whatever, an artist, you're expected to like get some huge audience and get people like in agreement about what you're doing. And kind of more interesting to like hit people or interact people on like an individual level where there isn't necessarily this big group consensus of like, wow, this guy's great. Wasn't that so great? It's kind of interesting to have each person have some kind of weird like individual relationship with you where they I saw what you did. Huh. What was going on there? I don't know. It was interesting. I thought about it. I watched you on the internet smoking a bunch of weed, talking about Israel or whatever. I don't know who the fuck is out there watching this. It's not just that's the thing about doing like an open mic is like it's not just an audience. It's like you kind of have individual relationships with everybody out there because half of them are performers. And that's sort of what a community is, or like a scene is like everybody gets to participate, everybody knows everybody else. It isn't just like going to and playing some fucking arena of faceless people who are like meant to be like servile to you and like they just worship your art or. If you want that and you are in show business, I think your goal is like you have to make something that like the audience loves. Like that's possible if that's your goal. Like your goal should be to like make something that like people want to buy. For me, it's always been more about some kind of like expression from the inside out. I'd rather express myself than like get anybody's approval about anything that I'm doing. To be honest, for whatever reason, people generally seem to like react um, slowly to what I'm actually putting out there. Uh, but if you can make people like feel something and want to like throw money at you, there is a way to do that as an artist. That's what I mean with music. And think about it. People are desperate for good music. They really want something that's going to like make them feel something, make them feel connected, make them feel understood, transport them. They really want that. They want somebody to come in and like show them what the world sounds like right now. And I don't know, not that many people are able to supply that in like any kind of uh immediate way. There's some people that are. Fucking Taylor Swift, maybe fucking what else? It's not really about you as an artist or anything like that. You're lucky if you're able to do that. And I think people respond to like individuality or like realization as a person. If you're able, like somebody like Prince, it's like the guy just knew exactly what he wanted to do. His whole life was music. He learned to play everything. He learned to be dynamic on stage. He got bands together. He was constantly writing, recording, just constantly making music. And he created a whole vision of reality that people fell under the spell of and wanted to be a part of. Colors, he's the purple one, and all of that whole, all of his music is so colorful, and it's like paintings. And it just became like the soundtrack for people's lives and shit like that. he's somebody that was able to do both. He's able to be himself, express his own ideas, say what he wants to say. In a certain way, when you get down to it, songs are just poems. The most effective songs are more like poems, and they probably start off as poems. Things like "In My Life" or something, or a lot of Prince's songs feel that way to me. They feel like he had something he wanted to say. He said it. He wrote it down like a poem, and was just so musical that he was sort of able immediately to freaking turn it into that. Okay, I'm just gonna leave this on for a minute because no one's watching anyway, and I'll be right back. Yikes! Prince. Okay, I should probably talk about Bob Dylan a little bit because it's Bob Dylan Day tomorrow, and I don't know. I just want to check in with my own because I don't know. Bob Dylan's one of those people that I was constantly listening to and copying. But the last few years, I don't know. I haven't been quite as much of a. I don't know. His sound has kind of been not as much to my interest for whatever reason. So I haven't really been, I'd put on this or that from time to time and not really be. It's a little too bluesy. It's a little too like old fashioned or something. I don't know. I mean, playing open mics or playing out there, it's like you gotta have some kind of sound that reflects the current world, and I don't know. It's it's just I don't know if that kind of roots music sound really is or rock and roll sound. Like I don't know. I was playing this open mic the other day, and this guy came up to me afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, it was awesome. You've got kind of like early rock and roll sound, like Elvis or Bruce Springsteen." And I was like, "How did he fucking clock that?" Like, because the songs I played this song, "What a Lovely Day," which is one of my favorite songs that I ever wrote, but it's only well, it's a little more than two chords, but I originally played it in Eric's loft at McKibben's loft with Rue, who was a piano player, and she had this really amazing piano part that was like sort of an arpeggio thing. And so that kind of made the piece work. When I played a guitar, I'm just playing like two chords. It's to me, it's more like a kink song or something like that. That's why I like it. It's like it's sort of a nice song just about regular life. It's got a nice melody. It's a little bit British sounding. It's kind of like maybe a little bit like a Velvet Underground song, I guess. But and but it's sort of like a B side or something. We never played it live, and for whatever reason, when I usually play it, it's like it just doesn't seem like it's that memorable to people. It's one of those songs that like kind of fills out the set, and I like it, and it feels like a part of the artistic mise en scène of the whole thing. Like, but it does not sound anything like Bruce Springsteen or Elvis, really. I don't think. But then I played that song "Let's Stay Up All Night Together," which I guess maybe you could maybe just as a performer, I'm just so saturated in those things that that's just what I imitate, or I'm a rockabilly when it comes down to it, really. And so it's kind of ridiculous, I guess, for me to pretend like I'm anything except a rockabilly. To pretend that I'm some kind of like current hit maker or something. I mean, I haven't even written a song in fucking like practically 10 years. That's why I wish I had a guitar here. It's like I would fucking write some songs right now, but I have no fucking guitar. And so I thought about getting some app on my phone or something that like plays music, some kind of keyboard app, or it'd be cool if I could just go to open mics and like play a little fucking like synthesizer on my phone or something. That would sound contemporary. If you're just an acoustic guitar guy to just, strumming with a pick like I do, uh, that I guess that's the flavor that I bring. I bring kind of a Elvis, Bruce Springsteen, white old guy quality, a dad rock quality, if you will. So be it. Um, I don't know. I think I don't know. My catalog of songs is definitely like worth listening to. That's really, when I go and play these open mics or whatever, it's like I feel like that's the thing that's going to differentiate what I do. It's not necessarily like the precision. It's more like the action is the juice and the songs. The lyrics of the songs, particularly the texture, they are kind of, I guess, a little too self-consciously in like some kind of Americana mode, some kind of like country rock type thing. uh but which is sort of old fashioned at this point. It's like that's what Bob Dylan is still out there doing. He's playing like these rockabilly covers of like fucking these incredibly obscure 1950s fucking country songs or whatever. Nobody knows what the fuck they are. But that's, I don't know, that's what he's into. That's what he wants to do. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily, it's like it's not about like, my Broadway caliber voice or my like vocal dexterity or chord progressions, let's say. It's more about the rhythm and the lyrics and the storytelling. The storytelling, people, and it's poetry. It's really about the poetry. And then I am a pretty good lead player, actually. I actually am like really an excellent. I love playing lead guitar. I love playing guitar solos. I will play a fucking guitar solo anywhere, anytime. I love it. I will shred your face off. Fucking shit. Zero viewers. This is, it's just, well, I mean, we've all been there. How many gigs have we done? Zero people showed up. I mean, come on. It's a part of the business. You still gotta, this is like going to the gym for me. I gotta hit the fucking bag. That's what this is. This is a workout. I think I'm doing some of my finest work here this afternoon, right now. For whoever watches, the AI, the spyware. My audience is predominantly foreign spies, Mossad. My handler. Who's my handler? Okay. All right. This is a complex subject that I wanted to talk about. I know my viewers watch me for my complexity and my depth and my mind blowing profundity that you cannot get anywhere else on the fucking internet. My clairvoyant truth telling. I'm ready to put some money down these predictive markets. Okay. I'm ready to develop a gambling habit. It's like gambling on stuff that's not for like I have no interest in playing cards or sports, but like, oh, I love geopolitics. Yeah, fucking let's put some money on this. I'll throw some money down. I'm confident in my abilities to fucking predict what's going to happen. Okay, all right. Humans are self-managing. Animals are ruled by nature. Okay, so well, this is just one of the, we're caught in kind of the amber or whatever era that we're in. Like this is something I was talking about yesterday. Like The Sopranos is about these guys who are caught in this era that's like in decline. And it's that show is miraculous the way it sort of captures them in motion in this time that's like, they're suburban gangsters. He's going to his kid's fucking soccer game and they're having family dinner and he's eating ice cream out of the fucking carton watching World War II documentaries or whatever on the History Channel. But at the same time, he's like fucking cutting somebody's head off and he's got one foot in the old world, one foot in the new world. And you see that sort of era kind of interfere in literal ways too with the war on terror and they don't necessarily overdo it, but I think that's one of the things like as humans is we're constantly adapting to circumstances that we're making for ourselves, right? Like the rules of ownership. Well, like I wake up in the morning, there's fucking birds chirping everywhere. They live in these fucking trees, right? Like they don't pay rent, but I guess their circumstances change. They cut the forest down, but birds live in an environment, their economy is dictated to them by survival. They eat or they don't eat. They have a place to live or they don't have a place to live. That's it. There's no rent. There's no bird made like interference. Like humans are dictating this artificial kind of natural selection on each other, where it's like you, in order, we don't, it's not like you go out and kill your food. There's this sort of metaphorical exchange value that we have created with the abstract capability of our minds. It's this group hypnosis. We all believe that like a chicken sandwich is whatever, $5, and that is a group hallucination. That is not like a reality of like going out and getting a chicken and killing it or something, which is what the natural world doesn't have. This superimposed kind of like situation of these things that we're enforcing on each other, I guess, is the point. The point being that like things like market value of rent or just the even circumstances of that versus like how much wage value is, what the minimum wage is, how much your time is worth. That's all kind of like arbitrarily instituted by the people on top, who basically treat us like we're domesticated animals or something. As long as we go to work and keep paying our bills, then we can survive. Then we're allowed to eat, we're allowed to live, we're allowed to have a place. But it's getting increasingly harder to do that because the people at the top are driving that. They're driving these extreme circumstances. They think that, I saw something, it was like, extreme circumstances make like the strong people stronger. I think Ric Flair posted it. Let me see if I can pull that up on Twitter. Ric Flair had some post about hard times. I'm on Twitter too much, I guess. This is what I'm talking about. Ric Flair's tweets. Iron sharpens iron. When the competition gets tougher, champions become stronger. Woo! Iron sharpens iron, everybody. When the competition get, is it still raining? I guess it stopped raining. When the competition gets tougher, champions become stronger. Woo! This is a guy who, you know, no offense to Ric Flair, but like it was all a work. There was no real competition. The competition was, I don't know, whoever people liked the best or whoever could do that job the best, whoever fit that role the best, whoever made the most money, maybe was the competition. Did Ric Flair draw the most money? Maybe he won that competition, but he wasn't winning, shoot fights, let's say. And so I don't know. This is something that the I don't know, that side of things tends to believe hard times make for strong men or whatever. Easy times make for soft men make for hard times. Um oh, there was a fucking Sopranos clip that popped up about a roast. That my phone must have been listening to me because there was a clip, Artie and Vesuvio, right? His best friend from childhood. His best friend is a civilian. He's a chef. He's a fine dining chef. He's got his restaurant Vesuvio, and so it goes into that world a little bit too. And he's bitching Tony out because he didn't pay him, or he doesn't pay his tab. Artie doesn't have enough money to run his business, and Tony's like won't pay his fucking bill, and he runs up all this extravagant expenses and shit, and he's like, "What about that roast you did of fucking so and so?" And he talks about he paid Pat Cooper. He pays the entertainment, but he doesn't pay Artie. It's like, oh, of course the fucking Sopranos are doing a roast. I mean, that makes sense, but it's like it's a fascist right wing thing. These fucking roasts. It's breaking your balls. You know, breaking your balls. I'm just breaking his balls a little bit. That's the same principle as like a roast. Hey, it's just I'm just breaking this guy's balls a little bit. I'm saying something incredibly personally insulting to him. You know, no big deal. I'm just making fun of like something he's very sensitive about to his face. You know, no big deal. You know, I'm just breaking his balls a little bit. Bully, come on. Was I out of line? I don't know. When I said his fucking, a 90-pound mole of his wife's ass or whatever. Jenny Sack. Oh, speaking of 90 pounds, what does he say? Speaking of 90 pounds, I heard Jenny Sack, she's having a 90-pound mole removed from her ass. I don't get it. Why is that funny? He's fat shaming. Ralph Cifaretto, fat shamer. Despicable. Of course, Ralph is a piece of shit. Ralph's name is such a great TV name because he's like the bad kid in like the Little Rascals movie. Ralph Cifaretto is like the evil neighbor kid. He's like the bad kid. He's like a character that moves in for like a season. Ralphie. Ralphie wants to play. Tell Ralphie we're not allowed to see him anymore. Our parents think he's dangerous. Ralph Cifaretto. Classic TV name. Eddie Haskell. He's the bad neighbor kid. Ralphie. Um, what else? Okay, yeah. So what was I saying about we're living in this human made. Well, we're constantly having to adapt to sort of like circumstances that are changeable and you know the way our society conceptualizes what our values are has changed. If you look at whatever 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, there was some prioritizing or intent on like, I don't know, making rent market, the idea of what the market could afford was a lot different than it is now and has been over the last decade or something. It seems like predatory now. The way that our society conceptualizes of money as a force, money as a value, how to earn money, who deserves money. It's all about the fucking stock market. It's all about the shareholders. It's all about rich people getting richer. Elon Musk is gonna have a fucking $1 trillion. Fucking crypto shit. It's all been sort of deregulated. Crypto is sort of it's another kind of money laundering. The people who have all the money are figuring out new ways to get more of it, to keep more of it, to pay less taxes, to hide it, to store it. They don't even need it. Who knows what the fuck they're, keeping it for? Who knows why they are hoarding all the fucking wealth? That is something that like our society's values fucking changed. Like the power of the unions or something changed in the 70s. Workers were no longer bargaining for the wage to keep up with the wealth that was being produced. The gap between the wealthy and the poor exploded. The middle class disappeared. I mean, the middle class literally disappeared. Like, that is a result of policy and values. Now it's like acceptable for a fucking CEO to make hundreds of millions of dollars a fucking year, for the stockholders to get buybacks. This shit used to be illegal. There used to be some regulation that kept parity between like the ultra rich and the middle class. They're just it in the and it provided a better standard of living for more people because the wealth was more evenly distributed and fairly distributed. It wasn't like unfair. It's not like the middle class people were like ripping off the rich people. There were still rich people. They still had a, way higher standard of living, but there was a middle class economy where more people could thrive, more people could afford vacations. There were, there was more local economy, there was more mom and pop type of things. People could engage their own ideas, they could run successful businesses. It wasn't just all swallowed up by corporations. People weren't just like management at fucking Starbucks or something. And this is all like just subtly shifted. The things that our society thinks are reasonable to charge each other for rent, that just sort of changed without our consent. They just sort of kept driving up the prices, kept driving up the prices. People kept paying them. What do we do? Why was it more equitable before? Why didn't they do that before? Why in the 90s didn't all of the landlords just say, you know what, fuck all these tenants. Let's charge $1,500 a month for a one bedroom apartment. Like supply and demand, right? That's what they keep saying. They stopped building housing because of the fucking housing crisis, because of the recession. My entire generation went and lived in the cities. We gentrified all of the cities, right? Places like Williamsburg, Bushwick, Ridgewood, Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, you name it. Sunset Park, now fucking Bay Ridge, Flatbush, Astoria. Now it's like parts of the fucking Bronx, I guess, are getting gentrified. Uh, that's because they didn't build any new houses. People just went and lived in the fucking houses that like were either abandoned or in disrepair, or white people didn't want them. Our parents didn't want them for the most part. All the boomers wanted to live in, or it was some balance of both. I don't know. Maybe they lived in those neighborhoods if they were like arty people or something. Back in the day, like Park Slope was like the fucking ghetto. That Hal Ashby movie, The Landlord, uh, takes place in Park Slope in like 1969, 1970. And it's like all black people that live there in Park Slope. The whole neighborhood, Union Street, President Street, all that uptown. And like now it's like the fucking Upper West Side of Brooklyn or something. It's just like Patrick Stewart lives there. Or he did. I think he moved, but he did live there. Captain Picard. Okay, so I've done 75 minutes. With literally zero people watching. Damn. Well, it's supposed to be good on that. I don't know. My shadow ban. Come on, YouTube algorithm. Come on. Well, we live in an environment that I guess is meant to simulate, like supply and demand, I guess is meant to simulate the natural world or something in a way. I don't know. Or it's just like, and we're forced into an economy where we're expected to buy everything for the most part. Very few people are like growing any kind of their own food. Maybe some people are, but for the most part, it's like you go to a fucking grocery store, buy everything. And, it's like 50 years ago, you could afford a house, single income, you could have kids, multiple cars, maybe a vacation house, one job, you know. Now it's like the market is set for like double income, no kids. Every apartment is set for like two people living there, both of whom have jobs and no other expenses. So it's like, uh, it's almost like the environmental circumstances are dictated to us by like the owners. That's what capitalism is. Like the terms are you have to pay for your life. You have to pay for a place to live, you have to pay to eat, and that's the way we keep you working. Unless you're already rich. If you have money from some other place that you inherited, a trust fund, whatever it is, maybe somebody just real nice to you. However you get the money is like of no business of ours, but if you can't just get the money, then like you got to work for us. Basically, we own you. You got to go get a job someplace, make yourself useful. That's how we keep this world going. Certain people need to be fucking Uber drivers or waiters or build buildings or garbage men or work at fucking Popeye's Chicken, food delivery guys. But that's all changing, right? We know that's all changing with AI. See, this is what I'm talking about. Is like the circumstances of our very survival are shifting constantly. So we're having to adapt constantly to wildly different, it's like you might have a job one day that like is very well paid and the next day doesn't even exist. I guess that can happen if you're like a fucking bird or something. Like I said, the forest you live in could get cut down, but uh part of my point is like we're setting the terms of this. And it seems to me like we live in a society where the people on the top have domesticated the rest of us like animals. We work for them. We are servile. And if we are not able to like most of the and the values, most of the things that we're remunerated for are like just like not the most fruitful task. Like being a fucking waiter in a restaurant, being a bartender, being in the service industry, just doing some kind of like basically manual dehumanizing occupation where it's like you're not really, it's not fun for you really. It's not what you choose to be doing. You're being subjugated to another human being. You're gonna have to be on your feet. You're gonna have to be like your body's hurting. The capitalists set the terms of that. They're the ones who own all the fucking capital. You got to get some somehow, or else you are just you have if you stop working, then what? It's like you're criminalized, basically. Like you're only able to survive as long as you just keep working. And there is like some freedom of choice with like you're able to go out and get a job maybe that you prefer if you're lucky. That's why we're in this kind of like competitive structure of who gets to do what, who gets to have the easy life, who gets to get paid to do something fun, and who has to do shit that sucks that has nothing to do with what they want to do and they don't make any money. And so, society, that's what nepotism is about, the Nepo baby thing, and resentment towards rich people or rich people who are artists or whatever is just like, well, they have sort of an unfair advantage. And it's not really about talent at that point. It's just about uh, who your parents are, or however you're able to hack the game. And then the rest of us just live these lives of fucking like hellish physical pain, economic precarity, moving around a bunch, being displaced, no long term stability at all. If you're lucky, you have health care. And it's by design. The Epstein class, they want us to be suffering and falling apart, basically, disintegrating, working, being worked to death, they want us to be busy all the time. They don't want us at home fucking writing poetry and shit, that's for sure. See, you can hear those birds. They're not worried about paying their rent. They're not worried about where they're going to live per se. Not always. Whereas, like us, the ground is changing beneath our feet like really fast economically. And the rules, really, what you're expected to do and what you're going to get back for it, or it's just going to change a lot. You're going to have to work a lot more, and your money's going to be worth less. And that is slavery, basically. That's how they're going to reinstitute slavery, more or less. And if you're poor, or if you stop working, or if you just fall apart, it's like you're going to go to jail because you're going to be homeless. That's going to be illegal. At least Mamdani is trying to be fair. He's trying to be equitable to people. Hopefully, in New York, there will be uh, real uh, protections for people, and like some real effort to create like affordable housing. I'd love to like win the fucking housing lottery or something. I'd love to just be able to move into some fucking place that I can afford for the rest of my life and not worry about it anymore. I think we all would. It's not a lot to ask as human beings. It feels like it probably, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was not that hard to like find an apartment and like have a place to yourself where you could like keep your stuff. and maybe have like a little bit of like alone time. And now it feels like impossible. It feels like some kind of war that they're committing against us. And it is about wealth inequality. Like that's a difference in our lives. You know, like if you're wealthy, you can afford a place of your own. You can afford space. You can afford a better location. Just everything in your life is going to be better, easier. The food you eat is going to be better. You're going to be able to treat yourself, your self care. You're going to have better self care. You're going to be able to take time for yourself, live healthier. Whereas, like the rest of us, and especially people living on the street, I mean, people living on the street deteriorate quickly. They can't take care of themselves. You know, they get infected or dirty or I have to go out and get something to eat. I've kind of eaten everything there is. That's interesting to eat here. I need some new flavors for my life. Oh, so I guess I did. Sunday afternoon. Bad time to stream, I guess. Oh, well, probably God. Now I know my audience just doesn't, they're not awake. Now that I'm getting to 2 hours, people will probably start watching. Now that I'm like gonna wrap it up. Well, I guess this is 90 minutes. W's in the chat. W's in the chat. I think we explored some worthwhile subject matter here. Maybe I'll have a strawberry cereal bar. $2.50 for this whole box. Say what you will about inflation. At Trader Joe's, the prices seem like they're going down. I don't know how they do it. I guess it's probably just slop. Or they've got some deal maybe with, they have some personal deal, Trader Joe. Trump's like, I know Trader Joe. He's not like Sleepy Joe. I like Trader Joe. We're going to work hard to make sure we keep those prices down. People have to get their junk food. Their junk food that's dressed up like it's health food. Their snacky charlatan health food. It is good though. It's better than like eating a fucking pastry. It's basically kind of the same thing, but I'd like to believe that it's. I mean, when I was a little kid, I thought this shit was like health food. I thought, oh my god, Nutrigrain bar. That's like a salad. It's got Nutra and grain in it. I keep signing up for these because, like, this neighborhood, honestly, if you're a stand up comedian, this is a fucking great neighborhood to live in because Literally on this street is Brooklyn Made Comedy. They have open mics, I think, Monday through Thursday and maybe even Friday. Then fucking Tiny Cupboard. I'm like between all this shit. Then Tiny Cupboard, they have open mics pretty much every day, practically. Secret Pour, not far from here. They have open mics like fucking, a few times a week. That dude has a basement comedy club in his fucking basement or something. That's not far from here. I mean, they just closed Caffeine Underground. So it's like, and then shit like Brooklyn Comedy Club or Flop House, all that shit's not really that far away either. You could walk to all that stuff or whatever. I don't know. I haven't, like I said, I don't. In that Henry Yaglom book, he's talking about he used to hang out at the Improv every night with Richard Pryor. Like I'm guessing this was probably like mid '60s when he was like starting out. How long was the Improv there? I'm not really sure. I think it was there from like the early '60s to like maybe the '90s or something. But Henry Yaglin was talking about he would sit with Richard Pryor every night and they'd have a competition to see who could make the other laugh first or something. And they were both like very serious about it. And they do it for like hours or something, he claims. And he wouldn't laugh and blah blah blah. Richard Pryor's trying to do all this shit, and all these people are watching, and he said Richard Pryor like poured all this ketchup and mustard and shit on his face and on his hair. And he's like, that's when I knew I would never be a comedian. Because he just saw that the commitment and like the links that Richard Pryor would go to like make him laugh. And he just like, I wasn't really probably gonna do that. I probably wasn't gonna fucking put goddamn ketchup and mustard all in my face. Uh and so I thought it was interesting because it it I guess it leads me to believe that guy like did have some kind of like life or like attempt to try to do that. Like at least he would hang out at the Improv or uh excuse me. Like I said, he put Larry David in his movie in like the '80s, the early '80s. So maybe he was just tapped into stand-up comedy culture. Uh, I get the impression it's probably something that he tried to do when he was like younger, when he was an actor and before he became like a director. And maybe that was a moment where he just decided, I don't really know that I'm as committed to this as Richard Pryor is, or traumatized, to the point that you're willing to do that. Uh, and then I think they talk about how comics are like evil people. Pat Cooper at the fucking Tony Soprano roast. So yeah, I don't know. I guess point being, it's like it's something that you really have to like throw yourself into and want to do, and you kind of just have to be desperate. It's almost like a personality defect or something to be that needy or to I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that it is like this thriving art form, and there are all these badass people out there, just getting on a stage with the microphone, and like it is like a loquacious kind of jazz position where it's like you're just getting up there and like singing your fucking song. Like you can't play an instrument, you can't sing, you don't write poetry, you don't, it's just like you just talk. I wish the comedians were less racist, less wanting to sleep with their cousin, less whatever it is, but uh, the circumstances are right. The forum is right for like it's cool that there are all these rooms where people are trying to like share their thoughts, share their opinions, listen to each other. Like it is apparently a big like how are there all these fucking comedy clubs out here? I don't know. In this neighborhood alone, it's like there's five goddamn comedy clubs, like real comedy clubs, like that Brooklyn made, like that is a comedy club. I mean, it might just be some guy had a store and he wants to do comedy there. That's probably what most of these places are. But I mean, Tiny Cupboard, look at that. They do fucking shows twice a night or something, and it's way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. It's like, how the fuck are they getting these audiences out here? I don't know. Good for them. Uh, where are we with? Okay, so I guess it's done raining pretty much. So like I signed up for an open mic at 11 p.m. tonight at Tiny Cupboard, which is cool. I like this idea of like going out and like they have like a lot of their open mics are like at fucking midnight. It's like I like that, but uh these comedy open mics, you never know who's going to be there, and you never know if the other people are just going to be like total assholes and lay into you for something that you said or did. Not that I care that much, but it's just like it's just not that great of a feeling to go and do something that you feel like is revealing or original and just get smeared for it by the other acts. Like they're not supportive at all. They're all fucking. Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about Bob Dylan. I guess there isn't really much to say because I don't. To be honest, I don't really like listen to him very much recently, or uh even watch like the live stuff or even theme time. I just don't really I don't know. The past few years just hasn't really been at the forefront of. I think somebody said that the pandemic was like the thing that like put us in the 21st century. Before the pandemic, we were still kind of living in the 20th century, and it was like that was the moment that like we really like things like Zoom, streaming, crypto, uh, even things like electric cars. drones, whatever. Feel like they became more normalized. It's almost like the pandemic was some kind of like big rollout. Let's suspend all in person everything, put everything on the internet in just like sort of a shock tactic, give people a bunch of money to like buy a bunch of new gadgets, start making social media things, make fucking TikToks, make fucking YouTube pages. Everybody's a SoundCloud rapper all of a sudden, just to throw us into the new world. And then it's sort of been dialed back a little bit, where some of us have been able to sustain those endeavors. Some people got successful. Look at Subway Takes guy. When did he start doing that? 22, 23, 24? How long has that fucking Subway Takes been on? I guarantee you they have a Wikipedia page. Here it is, Internet Talk Show. Similar to Man on the Street, blah, blah, blah. 2023, July 31st, 2023. Death of Colbert's show, things like this. Subway Takes includes branded content and has featured takes paid for by Google, Microsoft, Hulu, Street Easy, and H&M. Rama and his guests have had brands including H&M, Urban Outfitters, KOTN, and J. Crew sponsor their outfits. Rama worked closely with Google on the take about Android users as better lovers. Wow, okay. So that's probably a big reason why Subway Takes is successful, because brands can fucking use it to smuggle. It's an ad and you don't know it's an ad. That's like their goal. They want hot people, people with an audience, but people who are, I don't know, are just like generally agreeable or something. Well, what's so fucking crazy about this is I had an internship for this place in college called Loyal TV. And this was like 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. I think it was 2007. It was, and so I found it on Craigslist, and they had interns. I went to Ohio State, and so I was like their intern at Ohio State, and basically I got the job because I had a mini DV camera and I could upload videos every week. And the job was, what I was supposed to do was I was supposed to go out on campus and like interview people about products they used that they just wanted to talk about and do like reviews or something. So I was supposed to like go meet people just like on campus and be like, hey, do you have some, your phone or whatever? Do you want to talk about what you like about it or whatever the hell it is? Your clothes, your backpack, your sunglasses, your lip gloss, it can be any fucking thing. They just wanted their goal was to build like I think a library of like 10,000 videos or something. And so I was supposed to make I think over 33 videos a week. And I think they paid me like $5 a video or something like that. And so like literally I had to make 33 videos a week uh that were like product reviews. And what ended up happening was I would just do them myself. They didn't even give a shit. As long as they were adding to their database, they didn't even fucking care. They had a goal where they wanted 10,000 videos. I don't know why, for SEO or something. And like I said, this was 2007. So it was like, at the time, this idea sounded so fucking stupid to me. I was just like, no one will ever do this. This is the dumbest idea ever. I don't even know who came up with this. It's so stupid. Like, people are going to make video reviews of like products they use. Like, no fucking way. Absolutely not. This will never happen. Like, no one is gonna go out of their way to, like, review a product on the internet. Like, why would they do that? Like, people have got better shit to do. They're there to use the product or whatever. Like, they're not video makers. And so I never even went out and interviewed anybody. I was too afraid, to be honest. I was too shy. I did not know how to just like approach. I could probably do it now, but to be honest, it just wasn't worth it because I would have had to put it on tapes. I would have had to transfer it to my computer. Up, it would have been a lot of work. Was what I ended up doing. Like I said, this is 2007. I had a mini DV camera that ran on like fucking tapes. What I did was I just plugged my camera into my computer via the FireWire port back when Apple had FireWire, and I just do it directly to the computer myself. And I talked about a bunch of books I had, just talk about any goddamn thing. Like I said, they didn't even care. But at the time, I was dating this girl who they really liked. They were like, "Oh, she's great. We want more videos of her. We like her." And they gave us more money. You know, they gave her money to like be in these videos because they liked her presence, they liked her on camera. She could talk about all the makeup products and shit. I think we did a video once that was like getting ready for a night out actually. That was like the point of the video. It's like we went step by step, her putting makeup on, her you know, whatever it was, going through all the different products, talking about all the different products. So it was a, you know, it was like a series of like whatever, 8 videos. And they paid us like $100 or something, which at the time was like, holy shit, 100 extra dollars. Like, wow, yeah, of course I'll exploit my girlfriend for this. Of course, $100, Jesus Christ. You know, at that time, it was like that doubled my pay or something. I think I made like $100 a week, basically, $120 a week, something like that. But it's like I would make the videos in like 2 hours or something. Uh, but they liked her, and at the time, I just remember thinking like, this is so stupid and pointless. Like this will never go anywhere. And I don't know what happened to their website. I don't think it ever took off. But like, what I realize now is like, I mean, think about how many fucking product reviews there are on YouTube, unboxing videos, uh, Yelp. You know, that was sort of before Yelp was really a thing very much. You know, there was a little bit of that, but people who wrote Yelp reviews you just thought were like psychos. You're just like they just have nothing better to do. They're on some power trip that like people are reading their Yelp reviews like these video things. I don't know. It just there felt like there was more of a threshold to like being on video at that time. Like you had to be sort of an aspiring actor or some kind of aspiring on-camera talent. You know, that was 5 years before everybody got iPhones, and all of the sudden everybody's a wannabe influencer. Everybody is fucking on camera talent, basically. Everybody is like a sort of a local commercial actor in a way. And people that probably never would have expected to be like media personalities now are like incredibly famous. Like fucking you know, some of these like New York influencers or even Subway Takes Guy. You know, like if it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago, would Subway Takes Guy been like a Daily Show correspondent? Maybe. I guess it's possible. Probably. But wow. Kamala Harris was on Subway Takes. Harris surprised Rama when she diverted from the pre-approved take against removing shoes on airplanes to a bacon is a spice take. Okay. Wow. So it was awkward. Okay. Uh, what the hell was I talking about? Oh my god, I've done almost 2 hours. Fuck, I probably had 3 clicks on this. My god, what can be sadder? Well, in any case, uh, it's all about putting in time and discipline, and you got to show up every time, every day, no matter what. Um, I was talking about Subway Takes Guy being on the Daily Show. Uh, Loyal TV. And so she was, they were sort of asking her to be like sort of a proto influencer or something. They liked, she was cute. She was kind of bubbly or something on camera. She'd talk about whatever, her makeup products. Lo and behold, whatever, 5, 10 years later, it's like, that's a, there are people doing that on YouTube making like millions of fucking dollars doing makeup tutorials. It was sort of an unexpected utility for video. You thought, I don't know, I guess I wasn't really a visionary. I thought video was something that was used for like filmmaking, Hollywood style, and then maybe like TV commercials. You didn't, at that time it was a little bit, that was before smartphones really. I think that was before I had an iPhone, or it was around the time maybe of the first iPhone. Um I think maybe I got an iPhone while I was doing that job, or uh but now it's just like video is sort of this de facto. You send a video text to somebody, you do a face chat, anybody can upload any damn thing to fucking IG Reels, or we're all in the game trying to be seen and outdo each other. And okay, so yeah, so Loyal TV, who knew that they were the visionaries? They knew what was coming. I don't know what ever happened to that fucking website, but they did not win. They did not become Netflix or Hulu or YouTube or even Vimeo. And yet now it sounds like that idea could totally work. It seems like that's sort of a lot of what TikTok is. A lot of TikTok is sort of like TikTok Shop, or you know, here, try this fucking sandwich or something. Here's some hidden gem on the whatever. Try Bradley Cooper's fucking Philly cheesesteak. We made a TikTok video about it. We've got an Instagram, reel about it. Here's our review of this ramen fucking place. People use TikTok to find recommendations and shit. And that's why there's all these fucking lines. People see a TikTok video, something goes viral. That's like a best case scenario for your business now. Is like there's a line out front because there was a TikTok video that people liked. Maybe I should get somebody to make some TikTok video about the open mic. Can somebody make some stupid viral open TikTok video about the open mic? Oh, we know about this secret open mic on the Lower East Side, blah 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 blah, and edit it with all that like fast editing and shit. I don't know how these, it's like a certain styles of video go viral. Like it's the ASMR. Yeah, get ready with me. Here's my blah blah. It's like then everybody just like apes that style, that fast editing or that fast motion thing. And if you can figure out how to do that, people go, wow. He knows how to do it. He knows how to copy that thing that like is, defining the moment sort of aesthetically. During an April 2026 episode with Julian Casablancas, lead singer of the Strokes, Casablancas described American Zionists as benefiting from white privilege while complaining like black people during slavery. Casablancas compared the Hamas October 7th attacks on Israel to Native American uprisings and revolts during slavery. Hmm. I mean, his opinion seemed kind of like, I don't know, not totally like he knew what he was talking about. He seemed a little bit out of his depth. I think he wanted to come out and say something, like definitive and I don't know. He's an extremely privileged person himself. Oh yeah, let me leave this in here. Let me leave this in here when I do this. Fuck it, I'm wrapping it up. I'm wrapping up here, but I'll leave you this view for a sec. Oh yeah, I do have a subject I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk about how MFA is the new New York, or was the new New York. Now I don't know what the hell. There is no anymore. Now it's all just fucking. Okay, so I wanted to talk about how I think to some degree for my generation and maybe beyond, there was this book that came out from N plus one, like around the time I graduated college, MFA versus New York City, comparing the two as sort of like alternate career paths. Like, what's that was the question, MFA or New York City. And the idea being either you go into an MFA program, get a graduate degree, become an academic, basically, become a professor at any number of schools. These MFA programs have become like an industry. They are the industry, actually. And or the idea at this time, the alternative was like go to New York and sort of hack it somehow through non-institutional channels and make it as I don't know, a fucking magazine writer, get your book published by one of the big five, whatever. Sell your book, sell your novel. Like that at the time seemed like they seemed like two divergent paths. You do one or the other, but it's like, not both really. Whereas like it seems everybody in my fucking time here has an MFA. Everybody who fucking like came here to be a writer, they pretty much had an MFA before they came here. Which to be honest, I feel like is probably the smart thing to do. Getting an MFA is like it's almost nothing. It's like 2 years. It's literally fucking nothing. And they a lot of these places fucking pay you to do it. So it's just stupid to not do it. But um to some degree, I don't really think that that dichotomy really has any legitimacy to it. I suppose there are ways that you can like work your way up through like the ranks and sell your novel or something, but basically anybody I see who has traction in New York, I don't know, they or like is able to sell their novel or something to anybody that matters. It's like either they went through some kind of big institution like Bennington or whatever the fuck, or fucking Oxford or something. It's like I heard a lot of these publishers will not even look at you unless you have New York Times, New Yorker, certain mastheads on your resume, and those places won't even look at you if you're not like Ivy League. If you didn't go to Yale or Harvard or whatever the fuck, Oxford, it's like forget about it. And so, to some degree, I think all that stuff is gate kept in like a more extreme way because there's less opportunities, there's less real business. Um, and but I also think that like the MFA programs, okay, like people that I knew that graduated around the same time as me, like I knew some people that moved to New York, and they usually all lasted like a year or two, and then they fucking left. And a lot of like, okay, there was this one guy who I did a movie with in college. He went to Kenyon. He moved to New York. We were Facebook friends. I didn't really know this guy. He was a host at Balthazar for like a little while. And I think he maybe even had a theater company in New York. I think he had play in like the Fringe Festival or something. I think he had a play like Cherry Lane Theater in like the Fringe Festival, which to me at the time was like, holy shit, this guy's like really. But at a certain point, he just got, I think he lived in the Bronx. At a certain point, I think he just got fried and was just like, fuck this. And he went to his MFA program in Austin or something, someplace in Texas. And as far as I know, he's lived in Austin, Texas ever since. Working, probably in some theater company in Austin, Texas. And he's probably a faculty member or adjunct or whatever the fuck at UT or whatever. And so it's like, I think there was a lot of examples of, and this was probably a privileged guy. I mean, he went to fucking Kenyon, but it's like even he was like, I can't do this. Like this is there was no foothold for him to get that like made him feel comfortable to the point that like he was gonna stick it out with some theater. And that was like 2010 or something. By 2011 or by the time I got here, that guy was like gone. He had gone to an MFA program where he was probably getting paid and he probably got some fucking teaching job. He got married. A lot of people came through New York, were here for like a couple years, and then got married and spat out wherever the fuck they came from, or some new place where they could like get a job at a university. So to some degree, I feel like those, anybody that like would have been like an actor in New York in like the 50s or 60s or 70s, maybe, like they probably all went into fucking colleges, to be honest. Like the fucking faculty at Ohio State or OU, the faculty at OU all felt really hip. They all had all these regional theater credits and like, they were like intellectual fucking interesting artists. They were the fucking, theater faculty of like Ohio University Athens. And they did good productions. They had fucking like great lighting, great facilities, they had budget, they could get costumes, like why the fuck not? Like if you can be a director or something and a professor in some fucking college in the Midwest and like work in like big theater, like, Ohio State had a fucking proscenium theater. It had, of one of those three-quarter theater, whatever the fuck those are called, like that juts out. It had black box theaters. Like it had a bunch of different fucking options for like places you could stage. And they all, they had a bunch of free labor, all the students. And then budget for lighting, costume sets, like if you wanted to do something a little more avant-garde or whatever, you could do it at some theater in town. Like it is kind of sad that everybody fucking moves away, to be honest. It's sad that all like the most talented, like fucking good looking people like try to move to New York or LA to like make it because I don't know, there is sort of a lack of talent. Or I don't know, like or rather it's like there are good theater schools like all over the fucking country. Ohio State was not even that good of a theater school, but it's like it had all the facilities and everything you needed that like you basically did what you would have done if you were an apprentice at some place off Broadway. It's like you would have learned how to make sets, how to do costumes, script, and like they're all the fucking same. All these theater schools are the same. It's like they teach you goddamn script analysis. Fucking they teach you some weird version of like objective based playable action acting. There's like movement classes, there's speech classes, there's little electives and shit. They're all the fucking same, basically. Like there's tons of people that get BFAs in acting and they're just like meaningless. They don't ever do anything with it or uh but there's still a heavy emphasis placed on training and knowing certain things and getting vocal training and whatever the hell. Knowing what fucking viewpoints is or Suzuki method or I don't know, and Bogart technique, well, Alexander technique, Michael Chekhov, Meisner, Stanislavski, of course, whatever the fuck. It's all bullshit. It's you either got it or you don't got it, baby. It's that fucking simple. You're either like convincing as an actor or you're not, you know? And who cares? There are people that are horrible actors that that are fun to watch. And there are people that think they're good actors who are horrible. I can't stand Edward Norton. I think Edward Norton is like unwatchable. Everything he does seems really fake and stagey to me. Uh, but that's my Orson Welles opinion about him. What the fuck? How did I start talking about this? This is my my acting class. I should teach an acting class. That's not a bad idea actually. The Matt Proctor technique. The Matt Proctor Studio. It's very exclusive. Okay, there's a rigorous audition technique or process. We screen heavily. Only very select few pupils are chosen. I mean, that's kind of what the Slooge was. It kind of was like a theater school. It was a renegade, non non legal. It was like the James. No, it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad, but yeah, the Matt Proctor Studio of Acting, the acting studio. I guarantee you, I could get better fucking performances out of people. I could make better actors. I promise you. I fucking promise you. Uh, than all of these other clowns. Like you want to book? Do you want to book the role or not? Okay. If you're ready to fucking book, call me. Okay. If you're ready to get serious about acting, okay, and you're ready to fucking book some serious Law and Order, Dick Wolf. Maybe a little Blue Bloods, maybe a little HBO. We could get you as an extra on Saturday Night Live, maybe. Call today. Act now. Headshots. I also have a lot of opinions on headshots. I think most headshots are just atrocious. The whole approach that people have to acting, the whole industry of it. This is why I stopped doing it because the whole design is you're not meant to stand out in these headshots. Your outfit, everything except like your look. It's all supposed to be like generic and sort of non. And then I don't know. There's supposed to be something in your eyes or something that like leaps out. It's like that's really a bad idea. I mean, I think the more you differentiate yourself, the more you're likely you are to be cast. Like you have to be a character. You have to do their work for them. The directors have to see you and go, I want that guy. That guy has to be in my movie. Look at him. I want Kevin O'Leary in my fucking movie. He's just got the look. I mean, if Kevin O'Leary was an actor, would he get cast in anything? I don't know, but he definitely looks like a person. He doesn't just look like some sort of generic Tom Cruise knockoff with like a Ted shot that's just like watercolor. I read that Orson Welles book. I'm ready to pontificate about the entertainment industry. We can do better, I think, you know, as storytellers, national storytellers. We can make better characters, better. Well, I don't know. There was some pretty great stuff that has happened over the last 25 years in film and television. So, The Sopranos, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and I'm sure there's been some other things too. Uh, what was kind of well, the most recent phenomenon everyone was talking about was one battle after another. We'll see how that ages. It just sort of captured the zeitgeist. How the fuck did I start talking about this? Brain drain, basically. People moving from everywhere to New York. New York just sucks up. And then, people from all we do is get jobs in service industry. Like everybody I know who went to Ohio State basically got diverted into some other career. They became bartenders or whatever, some other kind of job, real estate or whatever. and they sort of just like stopped. Well, I don't know. I guess I know a few people that like are extremely like. I recently, okay, here's a weird thing. When I was in high school, the first play I did in high school, my senior year of high school, I did Neil Simon's Rumors, the first play I was ever in. And the director was this lady, I think, who went to Ohio State, maybe, but I don't know if she lived in New York at the time or she was moving to New York or what. She may have been living in New York and like came back. But anyway, she directed our fucking high school play. And you know, we had like, I wouldn't say we had like, a close relationship, but like, this play, like we worked hard on it every day and uh 4 5 days a week, whatever, for like weeks and weeks and weeks. So it's like you kind of, spend time with these people. And it is like a shared crucible that you go through together, that like you're doing this fucking play. It's risky. It's like it's a trust thing and you're committed to it. You have to uh you know deliver. And so it is like it bonds you or something, maybe, I don't know. I remember she took us because I think she went to Pickerington and she took us to this play in Pickerington to watch that they had produced in their high school. And I think it was like an Agatha Christie mystery, which I had never even fucking heard of, really. And the set was just unbelievable. It was like this courtroom and it's all fucking wood. And the acting is like incredible. I mean, this dude that played the lawyer was like, he could have been in the fucking movie or something. He was just, and it was so serious. It was so like not what our play was like a farce, and I was walking around like I was James Dean. I was like the serious fucking actor and shit. It's like I'm playing like this, like basically like Steve Martin part or something. And so we saw this, and to be fair, it was like really slow and kind of, I don't know, kind of dry. It was like this courtroom thing, and they're talking about this crime that had happened, and it's like, it's like some like prehistoric courtroom fucking drama or something. It's British, and I think the guy even did a British accent. I'm pretty sure he did a British accent. And the clothes, they're wearing suits and glasses. It's like, and we were there with our whole fucking like cast of the play we were in. We went and saw this play in Pickerington, and I don't know. I was such a fucking snob that I did not go back in for the second act. I like stayed out in like the hallway of this fucking high school because I like didn't want to watch the rest of this fucking play. I guess I just was like, I don't know. I was just too threatened by it or something, and I just had to completely be like, this just sucks. Fuck this. These people are. I guess it's what I still do, but I don't know. It was just maybe every fucking high school theater feels that way. Where it's like, wow, we really got something here. But in any case, the play went over very well. It was a hit. It was kind of a surprise hit. We didn't. I think it was just one weekend of performances. I don't know if it was even 2 weekends. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 shows. Uh, but I thought I knew she had lived in New York and had like a theater company or something in New York, which, like, to me at that age was like, wow. It's like, holy shit. Like, this woman like lives anybody in Columbus, Ohio, you don't understand. Like, we were so isolated. I didn't really travel that much as a young person. And so anybody that had ever lived in New York or spent any time there was just like, tell me anything about it. Just tell me what your experience was like and where you lived and whatever. I just want to know anything about it at all. How hard is it? Okay, what's it like, you trying to make it or this or that? And so this woman she'd lived in New York. She'd had a theater company, and so I looked her up on fucking Instagram, and she's on Instagram. I followed her on Instagram, but then I unfollowed her. She didn't follow. Well, I followed her with like not my personal account, and she's still doing theater stuff, and but I think she does like film stuff. She's going to all these film festivals and shit. So who knows? I mean, she's active. There's still people out there doing it, and there is a place. Like if you just want to do it, it's like with writing or anything. It's like there's tiers, and if you make films and shit, it's like you could get your film into some kind of film festival someplace and get to feel like, oh shit, okay, I'm a somebody. I won an award at a film festival, or like whatever it is. Publishing, same thing. It's like you can get your thing published in some goddamn magazine somewhere. Like somebody isn't like on your level. Somebody out there will publish something that you got fucking written. So it's a hierarchy, there are tiers: S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, etc. And you do the best you can to get in the highest tier you can, but at a certain point, you just got to admit when you're a fucking loser, or where you're at, who you belong with, what tier you belong on. So I don't know. I mean, I did way I all of the theater. I never really did any kind of like very much formal theater in New York. It was all more like life theater, more informal. Like my grand project of all of this, doing the open mic is sort of like a big theater in a way. It's a way of putting the theater. It's like TikTok. If TikTok was a theater, it would be the open mic. It's like vaudeville, right? It's like not everything in theater has to be a fucking play. Like vaudeville is theater. It's a live performance, and the show itself also has a little bit of narrative arc or like a artistic intent. And did I smoke that third one already? I guess I must have. It's crazy. Uh, and it's sort of a reality show to some degree too, the way your life kind of bleeds into it and vice versa. I was just thinking back on the different, like my vlogs, which I've been doing since 2014 in like a pretty serious way. And think, how like Sopranos, there's sort of like these arcs, and you can kind of group the seasons together. But like, there's the Ralph Cifaretto era, there's his mom era, there's the Tony Blundetto season, there's the Phil Leotardo era. There's sort of like little storylines within the seasons and things. And so with my vlogs, there's like eras, you know, like the early vlogs are sort of just about like my life as a videographer, and it's sort of formulating. I'm on vacation with my family, nothing is really materialized. And then so it's sort of just about like what my life is like as a videographer, going back and forth between Ohio and New York. That was my original idea. Was like I was going to make a movie about a character who was going back and forth between Ohio and New York. And it was like going to be an autobiographical script, because that's what I was doing for that whole year, 2013, 14. I had a car. I'd be in New York for like a month or two. Then I'd drive back to Ohio. I'd be in Ohio for like a month or two, and back and forth for like a year. And I had that tiny room. So the room would be empty. Back at that point, I could afford to do that. It was $300 for that room.
So it's like I just crash with whoever in Columbus, and then I'd be paying $300 for that room. And so I could afford to keep it empty for a month. It wasn't going to break my ass. Now that room's probably $900 a month or something. But in any case, everything's 3 times more expensive now. And so I just said, well, fuck it. Why not just do it with my iPhone and just do it? Why not just film it rather than like write a script and all that? Why not just like film it and that's the story I'll tell? Is like I'm going back and forth between Ohio and New York. If you watch those early, if you go back to the beginning of my Scenes from a Life playlist, the early episodes, it's like I go to Florida, I go to LA, I'm in Columbus, I'm in fucking, Fairfield County or something. Then I'm back in New York, then so I'm sort of jumping around. And then that fall, that's when Holy Smokes start to happen and like the Slooge thing starts to happen. And so that's sort of what the first storylines were. Whereas like there's the Holy Smokes era, and that sort of goes into the whole Slooge reality show, sort of being a streamer house before that was a thing. Filming the people that lived in the house, turning it into webisodes. At that time I was still making webisodes. Everything was like 8 minutes. It was all super edited. There was music. There was talking head, like streaming almost to the camera. And people had done all of that stuff, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, where it's like everybody and their fucking brother has got a goddamn live stream or whatever, a vlog. Uh, and then, okay, so then the Slooge thing sort of turned into. I remember I went on sort of a hiatus because I felt like I sort of ran out of stories and the house sort of tumbled over, and that's when I met Olivia. So that I guess became like another story. Although I just didn't know how to tell that story. It just seemed way too big and way too much pressure. So then the story became sort of about like the Slooge falling apart in a way, the Eyes Wide Slooge episode, the Valentine's Day episode. I've since gone back and filled in, I think, a lot more of that story. But it's like the story really there was like Olivia. Olivia sort of took over everything. And then Trump happened, and then then the wrestling happened. Brooklyn Backyard Wrestling was our backyard wrestling federation, which was a great idea and probably one of the best theater companies. It was all theater. Like the Slooge was like a big theater, but it was like the theater was our lives and holy smokes and these parties and filming it and vlogging it. It was like a fucking Henry Yaglam movie. It was like, here's what it's like to live in an art commune in Brooklyn. It's a brownstone. There's these actors, there's a Kapuka Theater Company, there's Vera and Linus, there's Caitlin and Andrew, there's the Holy Smokes rock and roll people, Eric, Jake, my childhood friends, Eamon, that whole company of actors, Louisa, Eusebio, uh, Albert, and all of those kind of characters. Peter and Matthias, who lived in the house, Mark, our in house weed dealer. And so there were little story, we went upstate. There were adventures within the Slooge storyline, little things that happened, 4th of July, the parties. But at that time, it seemed like a little bit bad taste to film everything. And it felt like you got to keep it as short as possible. Now I wish I had more. I wish I had more footage of all the parties. And we should have just live streamed the whole fucking party, to be honest. I mean, I filmed some of it. I filmed like the open mics and shit like that, but at that time it was like streaming was still this kind of like passe. It was just looked on as like, and when I would film people, they would get pretty annoyed by it. They would be like, "What the fuck? Why are you, you're exploiting us?" Now it's like everybody films every fucking thing. Everybody is trying to make content out of every kind of personal anything that happens. I don't know if my friends still feel that way. Maybe that's something millennials and older just feel is like stop filming everything. It's gross. But I was filming everything before it was, totally ubiquitous. And so then the BBW became the way of like telling that story. The way that just sort of life was festering over in this really unexpected way, and Trump was coming, and then right, it became all about Trump and going to the march and political activism against Trump in whatever way. And that's when I sort of got with Wavetable and with Sarah. There was a little bit of a period where I had kind of my own single life out in the world, exploring my own interests. But then Wavetable happened. And so that then my life with Sarah, there was sort of like that. I sort of stopped making episodes because, but I went back later and made like, us in San Francisco, us in Paris, my whole 2019 episode, and I sort of filled in the blanks. And so you can go back, and those are the storylines are like, poetry life, education of a poet, traveling, going to Paris, going to, playing freak jazz, being a crazy beatnik. That's what sort of happened those years. And then bam, then LA, right? Then there's the whole LA story series. So there's books, that's when the books sort of come in. The Portland book, Spokane, Washington, the San Francisco book, the LA book, the Paris book. There's all episodes that go with all of that stuff. The idea is you're supposed to read the book and watch the vlog to get the whole story. And they sort of complement each other. They fill in the blanks as a way of sort of like giving you as much of the experience as I can, giving you the interior of the experience through the poem and the visual of what actually happened as fully as possible through the vlogs. So the idea is you connect the two and it gives you, some kind of three-dimensional apprehension of that time. Even though it was only like, a month or something. It's like a novel when you combine the two. The vlogs are probably what 3 hours and the book is 180 pages or whatever, but it reads quick. My books are all meant to be huge and quick at the same time. Like my New York book is huge and there's a lot in it, but it's also like you could read it in probably a couple days or something. So it's a sense of accomplishment. You can feel like you read this giant book, but it's also like, goes down quick. But you can spend time with it. It's worth pondering, you know, and so it's meant to work in all ways. You can read it fast, you can skim it, you can read it chronologically, narratively, you can spend time with it and think about each little line is meant to be something you can meditate on endlessly. What does it really mean? But it's also meant to just like be quick, 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 and very easy to read. It's dumbed down. And so the vlogs are like same, like you can pay close attention to them and they're meant to hold up to that kind of scrutiny, but they're also like something you can just put on your projector and have like be ambient too. Because they're long. They're meant to be, like I don't know, for better or for worse. Like when I look back on like my film career or whatever, it's like these are the films that I made with my life. Rather than, like I'm kind of frustrated because I'd like to write a script and like film a real thing, but it's like I do have like hundreds of hours of films that I've made that honestly look and sound and are edited like I want to make anyway. To me, like these are the films that I would make. This is the future of like narrative, poetic, whatever filmmaking is this. That's why I do it. And so this, if you can watch all of it from the beginning and get all of these storylines and see the growth of a poet's mind and see my development. When I started doing scenes from a life, it's like I'd barely done any fucking poetry readings or any kind of original art very much at all. I'd done a little bit in my share, but like that was really the beginning of like 100% commitment. And so it's all documented if you want to look at it that way. I look at it as like an art film that lasts 200 hours. It's a long form narrative in the same way that The Sopranos, Mad Men. This was my attempt to make a long form narrative TV show with no budget. And it's about my own personal development as an artist in all of these different ways. Music, you get to see all the Holy Smoke stuff, into Wavetable, into everything since then, System Lord, the open mic. I'm constantly including performances from everywhere that I'm performing, all the clubs, all the whatever. And so, okay, so then after the Sarah thing, right, of course, in LA, bam, it's the pandemic. And so most of the pandemic, I didn't really film that much of it, but there's a bunch of vlogs from Columbus, Ohio. That's how I told that story. The story picks up in like maybe September or October 2020. And so there's a bunch of vlogs where I'm just walking around fucking Short North with mask on in my living room doing kids bop. And that was my experience during the pandemic. There's one blog I made that was like an hour long, and it's like December through March. That was like the biggest piece that sort of told that story. That sort of interlude, pandemic hiatus season. So I have got that whole thing. You see the seasons change in Columbus. You just see being quarantined and all that. And then it ends with me arriving at that apartment in New York. And then my vlogs became something, that's like the Manhattan era. Me walking around Manhattan, doing poetry readings, living in that apartment. I mean, there's a lot of vlogs where I'm just like walking around Manhattan, filming the streets for like 2 years. I'm still kind of in quarantine. And then fall 22, the open mic, and that's when I meet Ashley and all these sort of poetry characters. And then so the open mic kind of becomes a storyline, and then Ashley, my life with Ashley, Uptown, Central Park, all of the poetry readings and things I've done in the last couple years are in the vlog. And as best as I could tell the story of whatever various personages I met, Kuzu Daddy, whoever it is, uh, Life with Ashley on the Upper West Side, the Neil Simon movie of our lives, Chapter 2, and just the whole kind of Ashley saga, our weird little Max Fisher, you know, Herman Bloom life as poets uptown, that whole world. That's been like the last, whatever, 3 years of my vlogs. And there's a lot of readings peppered in, there's stand up comedy peppered in, there's music things peppered in, mostly just me and a guitar. System Lord, we haven't played a gig, I don't think, since 2024. I think we may have had a practice in 20, or was that 2023? Yeah, I think we played a gig in 2024. I think we played at Long Island City Hostel, but that was the last System Lord gig. So it's been almost 2 years. Not that that's a, you know, uh, and the form of the vlogs changes as well. The early ones, like I said, they're more edited, they're shorter, there's music, there's montages. And then around 2017, 2018, that's when I start to just like do less editing, include more video. And then after the pandemic, they changed the rules on YouTube where suddenly you could upload as much as you wanted. Before, I think the when I first started doing scenes from a life, the limit on a video was 20 minutes. You literally could not upload a YouTube video longer than 20 minutes. And that's, the idea was you make short webisodes because at that time video was not really popular. There was an attempt to make that there be like a pivot to video that really didn't work. Like short form video did not really take off until TikTok and like the pandemic. But before the pandemic, like people kind of rejected video. They didn't really know how to put it into your feed on Instagram and live streaming for that matter too. Live streaming was like annoying and lame. But then the pandemic happened. Suddenly everybody's going live, everybody's busking and they're live streaming while they're busking. It became normalized. And IG Reels took off. I mean, I was making these videos on Instagram in like 2015 that I called 3-second essays that were like just short videos that were like almost like tweets. But I stopped doing it because it was like nobody puts videos on Instagram. What are you, psychotic? Nobody did that back then. It was literally crazy. Like you were looked on as like sort of weird socially, and no one else is doing it. Why do you think it's appropriate to do that? Post a video on Instagram, like no one does that. You just post pictures or whatever. There weren't even really influencers to some degree at that point. 2014, 2015, it was still kind of emerging. And so when I started filming shit and putting shit on YouTube, it's not like there wasn't like this marketplace of like vloggers and influencers on YouTube. There wasn't even really like van life or any of that. People thought I was like invading their privacy, sort of. And I suppose I was, but uh, it was like an unusual thing to do amongst a bunch of millennials and older people to be like, what are you doing? You're filming. Stop filming. That's like rude. Why are you putting a camera in? Why are you filming this like personal thing? Whereas now it's like, how many fucking people have got pseudo reality shows about themselves, or it's way more normalized. And in fact, it's incentivized. If you can figure out some way to like turn your friends and family or whoever into, like attractive internet personalities, then you can make a lot of money. There wasn't really quite the marketplace for that when I started doing this in 2014, 15. Uh, and then, I won that fucking award in 2018. I was basically putting my vlog on public access since 2015. So it was on TV. Uh, and then the most recent storyline is, now I'm this. Now I'm back to sort of being single and, or whatever, back to being footloose and fancy free. And I'm going to try to prioritize live performance over the next however long and just throw myself into it. I've been sort of just like taking a, it's been what, a month and a half since I my life has changed. And so I've been sort of just like, trying to take it easy, kind of relax, recover, handle shit that needs to get handled one thing at a time, whatever it is, go to the doctor, submit to these magazines, write, fucking whatever it is. But now it's like I don't know, I just want to get out there and film that, make that the story. That's the next story, is just like film Now I think people are maybe a little bit more ready for it. But if my vlog had more scenes with all of the different personalities from all of the different open mics and things, have scenes with Matthew Silver, have scenes with Glenn Blurton, have scenes with, Jordan, have scenes with fucking uh poetry people, a bunch of different venues, a bunch of different places, be more of like a man on the scene with a camera documenting the fucking, you know, uh activity and whatnot. Whereas like my vlog has been basically kind of this introspective hermit in a forest thing for like the last 5 years in a weird way. I've been in like the forest of Manhattan. And I go to all these different little caves and share when I can at these little gatherings. But you got to take massive action, you know. Maybe June will be like open mic month. Try to do an open mic every single. You know how there's like National Novel Writing Month and there's National Poetry Month, of course, where it's like every day during National Novel Writing Month, the idea is what you write certain amount of words a day, and by the end you've got a novel. So if you wrote, let's say, 5 pages a day, at the end of 30 days you've got 150 pages. You put double space that, it's 300 pages. And so I think with open mic, time to take massive action and just go out and just hit it every day. Try to hit something, hit some comedy thing, whatever, poetry, music, whatever it is. Do a show, do an open mic, do a live. I mean, the live streams have been kind of like an excuse for me to not go out and engage with public audiences. Here, I can just talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about, not worry about how it's received per se. Everybody receives it differently. That's why it's so strange that certain people get like everybody to agree with what they're doing. I don't know. Comedy, especially, I think is very. Look at the comment section of anybody's stand up video that they post. It's like, this wasn't funny. I didn't laugh. Gee, remember when comedy used to be funny? It's like people are so hateful in the fucking comment section of this stuff. It's like crazy. It's like, I don't know. Most people are critical. They're haters. I don't know. What can people agree on? I don't trust it. All right. Well, in any case, I spilled enough of my guts all over the internet for one afternoon. Thank you for watching. It's 3:30. I'm gonna go try to do an open mic probably later. I don't know. Has anybody got any hot tips? They know of anything? Let me just check my shit real fast. See if there's anything I missed. Anything I need to address. Come to the open mic tomorrow. It's fucking Bob Dylan week. Well, okay. Well, okay. So here's the thing: is now we're doing it in the red room upstairs, which people like. I haven't got that many signups, which it's kind of um it's a 3 day weekend. It's Memorial Day and it's Bob Dylan week, and we're in the red room. So I think there will be people there regardless of how many people sign up because it's the red room. I imagine they've got some event in the private curtain downstairs that they booked that they want down there, so they're putting us in the red room, which is fine with me. I'm happy to do it in the red room anytime they want to have us up there. I like doing both. There's pros and cons to each, but whatever they want to do, I'm agreeable to. I'm flexible. We did it downstairs in the theater the last 2 weeks. I love doing it in the theater. I was okay. So for the Bob Dylan week, I was anticipating doing this big jam session at the beginning with the keyboard and guitars and guitar amp and maybe even drums and play Watchtower and play Knocking on Heaven's Door and play um what was the other one? Maggie's Farm, and just get everybody jamming on it and just get everybody, because in that theater you could do that, so I'm trying to find new ways to like explore and utilize the theater in a way that people get excited by. One of which is like, we've got a lot of space, why not do a big jam, get everybody up with their fucking guitars, here's the chords, G, D, A minor, that's the whole fucking song. We could still do that in the red room, but I'm gonna have to start later because of the thing downstairs, and there's just not as much space. It doesn't necessarily invite that scope. With the downstairs, I wanted to press that advantage and be like, hey, look at this. We can do this down here. We can't do that upstairs. We'll still do it because I just think it's funny. It's a funny idea to have a kind of rock and roll Hall of Fame style, get, seven rhythm guitar players up there. But it won't be quite is easy to maneuver, and I don't know when we're even gonna get to start. I mean, I think they've got an open mic downstairs too. The Monday thing is doing their open mic this Monday. So they've got an open mic on the second floor. Why literally while we are doing the open mic on the third floor, that's we're competing with the same fucking building, basically. But like I said, I don't have that many signups somehow anyway. I've only got probably 25 signups or something. I'd like to have 45. And people are not really like beating down the fucking door or anything. So, but it's a 3-day weekend. And to be honest, that Red Room kind of has a built in audience just in and of itself. People just like going up there and hanging out. So it will draw its own business, and less people feels like more up there. So I think it's a good way to shuffle the product around so people don't get sick of the theater. The but they don't get sick of the Red Room either. It's also like it's kind of a premium, hey, this week we're doing the Red Room. You better come out. If you like the Red Room, you better come out this week. We don't know. Next week we might be back in the theater. So people who like the theater might take a week off. People who like the Red Room might come back. I don't think that's a bad way of doing it. And it keeps it interesting for me. It's been, basically 6 months since we've done shows in the Red Room. So I'm a little bit, there are things that are different about it that like it's good to just sort of like keep, go back and sort of remember what it's like and all of the unique differences. In the Red Room, I can use I have a way to live stream that I can use both my phones. So I can play the background music while I'm reading the list. That's kind of a nice thing to be able to do. Downstairs, I have to use one of my phones to do the live stream. And the sound sucks downstairs. The live stream is kind of all over the fucking place, quality wise. It's just the live stream is less popular downstairs too. I get less views on it, probably because it's the sound sucks and the camera is just like there's no good place to just put it and leave it. It's like people move around. It's nice to be able to zoom in and out and change the view a little bit. If the best angle, I'd have to put it right in the middle of the fucking dance floor under the goddamn disco ball or something. And I just don't really want to do that. I hope people do watch this stream because I do think it was a good stream. I guess I'm gonna take off probably till like probably Tuesday or Wednesday now because this was.
just not my target audience, I guess. Sunday afternoon, people got better shit to do. Um, but I feel good about it. I feel like we got a lot of good work done here. We you know addressed a lot of important topics that needed to be addressed. Um, so I had some bits planned for the theater downstairs. I'm starting to have ideas for it. I like the theater downstairs. I wish that it worked. I wish that we made a shitload of money downstairs and it was packed every week. I don't really get why it's not, but uh, who knows? Maybe some point it'll just take off. At some point it'll just explode in popularity. You get a $9 beer and a shot, you get to sit and enjoy a show for free. Like, to me, that's pretty cool. If I was in the East Village just sort of ambling about, I'd be like, yeah, I'll check this out. I'll go in and fucking sit in the fucking theater seats and watch this kind of manic cabaret. I'll do 3 hours. I'm going to do 3 hours. So I got 3 minutes left. Although YouTube has like weirdly been like editing my videos or cutting them off or something. Who knows? Uh, and throughout the storyline of scenes from a life, there's been threads that sort of have come through and gone, and jobs, locations, whatever it is. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and rewatch the whole thing. But I encourage people to watch my vlog. It's a massive life work, and read my poetry if you can get your hands on it. Get my book when I finish it, my city life book. Uh, what the hell else do I need to talk about before I sign off here? Um, I need to figure out when Elizabeth Street Garden is doing their readings. I need to get back into the Elizabeth Street Garden reading uh, routine. It's a good place to sort of meet people, be seen, distribute radical ideas, and just get back to that poetry life, I guess. It's gonna take time to like heal my relationships, if such a thing is possible. I don't know how to like approach, because I feel like I burned my bridges with a lot of these fucking venue or open mics or whatever it is. Like I don't really know where to go as far as where my poetry or my antics are sort of accepted. I guess that's one reason why I hide out on YouTube. Uh, but it's just little bit at a time, I guess. But I'm also trying to take massive action. It's kind of both. It's like you need to take massive action. In my experience, that's the only thing that works. Baby steps don't work. It's like you just have to get back on the horse. And I've been a little bit of a homebody. Like I said, just trying to relax and recuperate from my last couple years and just kind of like get my head on straight and get focused back in like the direction I need to be going. After 2 years of just sort of like being held back and just kind of trying to maintain, you know, the status quo and run my own thing and sort of like, exercise my own creativity in the limited ways that I could. I mean, it's still like I feel good. I've gotten a lot accomplished.
Like I've run a weekly show for 3+ fucking years, and I basically get to do a lot of my ideas that way. I get to practice, you know, reacting to things, quipping, ad lipping, speaking to whatever's going on. I get to read my pieces. I get to, and I was looking through my book. I get to do studies and artists that I like. I get to do Bob Dylan week or E-pop week or Lou Reed week or whatever theme we want to do. And I was looking through my book and I was just, there's stories or there's like things that a lot of these poems are attached to, like fucking Amsterdam Crimes. That's in the KGB lit journal. I read it in the fucking KGB. This Lost in Paradise. I read that at fucking that Hart Crane reading we did in under South Street Seaport. Kingdom Hearts. I read this at I think maybe my greeting one of those readings I did at Unnameable. Maybe it was the one Philip. I think it was the one Philip invited me to do. The Unnameable reading in 2024. This Kingdom Hearts because it's like a long poem, and so it's like it was one piece. This Pepper's Ghost. I read that at KGB. Um, Goblin Market. That's in fucking Lonesome Magazine. Saratoga Branch. I wrote this at the fucking library right over here, way before I ever lived here. There's stories with all of them. This whole chap book, I read this at fucking the Nebraska house. The one time I did the open mic over there. All of these poems were written kind of around the time I met Ashley. I read them at various open mics and things. There's a poem in here about open mics that was sort of like a mission statement. This book, Bloomsday, this was James's favorite. He liked that book. It was inspired by stand-up comedy podcasts. I started writing these like longer, more chatty poems for better or for worse. Probably for worse. Uh what else? These poems I read in Brooklyn Rail reading that Ashley invited me to do on Zoom. It was like whatever their fucking series. This poem I read at REG's open mic in Pete's Candy Store, whatever the hell it's called. Pulpertude. I read this at Wordshed. Uh, Leia's open mic at P&T Knitwear. Uh, this I read at Poetry Project New Year's Marathon. God Mode. So most of the poems that I type up are things that I've read in person at various readings. This I read at Hot People Reading Poetry the one time I went, or maybe I went twice. I'd like to go back, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are they going to do to me? Uh, this I read at one of the readings at uh, um, Monique invited me to do at Jefferson Market Library. Um, this I read at Brooklyn Rail. This she asked me to send for her issue 2 of her magazine. Uh, a lot of these I read at New York Poetry Festival, summer 24. I guess that was. Or was that 23? That may have been 23. These are in Ashley's magazine. Fucking whatever the hell it's called. Wind Up Mice. I read them at whatever that bookstore is in Bedford Nostrand, Dear Friend Books or whatever the hell it is. It's like a wine bar slash bookstore. This is a whole sequence that's when we went to Montauk. So it's sort of like a book within the book, where it's like a little. We go to Montauk, and so it's like our whole vacation. And this person I know from Columbia said they read, because there's this whole thing where I'm talking shit about all the twerps who work for the elite institutions, Columbia, New Yorker, New York Times. And so this person like came up and thanked me for writing that part about how the elite institutions suck and all that. So your poetry does affect people. This poem I read at this open mic in the Bronx I went to, Boogie Down Grind. This is Robert Altman inspired. These I read at Unnameable, I think at Greetings. My Bad, Steve Albini No Cap, Peniter Ferenz, How to Be a Sonnet. United States, this poem was originally called United States Balfour Plague Bag, which I should have left it that way because it's about that situation. So, Bruce Andrews was at this fucking reading, Eddie was at this reading, Philip was at this reading, you know, kind of a big deal. I don't think they were that impressed. This I read at Poetry Project, Potluck, the last time I did that. Uh, like I said, these were near a poetry festival. Ashley asked me to read for them. This was literally something I wrote specifically for the open mic 2 year anniversary, controlled nervous breakdown state of paradise address. So it like includes a lot of the open mic characters and just like, I like to do that every once in a while. Give yourself the assignment, like, okay, I got to write like a speech, basically. But just write it like a poem, just easy. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about, just say what needs to be said. Fuck. This election sequence, I think, is really well done. This poem, Green Out, it's all of the few weeks around when Trump got reelected. And it just goes all the way through for like the whole month of November, practically, or 11/20. And so you see in real time processing Trump becoming the president again. And so that's pretty interesting to have within the timeline. The first, three quarters, whatever, four fifths of this book is it's Biden era, basically, carefree and easy. And then Trump sort of comes back in. This manic panic poem I read at Geo's book launch right over here. It's on Bushwick Avenue somewhere, way before I lived here a year ago, March. It was March 25. Junie was on that reading, I think Galvin and me. And so I just read this manic panic, which was this giant. This is when I started at the end of my book. Once again, like with the vlogs, you see like an evolution of the technique. My technique is not as sharply defined as like Ashley's. Ashley, every poem has like a very definitive visual look and like form. My stuff is more kind of like one river that kind of changes shape. And so at the end, it becomes like these bigger poems that are like more like short stories. They're like 10 to 15 pages. And so, it kind of takes, I was working these big Five Below notebooks as opposed to, the first four fifths of my book is like me with a notebook out in New York City on the street somewhere in a park, whatever, in a cafe, writing this endless poem about New York. And then at the end, it sort of expands into these bigger. Philip told me I needed to write bigger on the page, get bigger pages. I think maybe I'd been doing it the whole time, but just the stuff that I ended up typing up was like things I had read at open mics, and mostly I was working out of my notebooks. I just liked that form. And so the poems, most of the poems in this book kind of have this like little bit narrow. But to me, that kind of reflects Manhattan. That's kind of how the buildings are in Manhattan. It's like the lots are not super wide. I think they're 40 feet wide or something. Um, and plus it evolves. This poem, Diet Soup, I read this at that reading in that garden in the East Village. Philip invited me to do with Sparrow and Bob Holman. Late Night is Dying. I wrote this in 9/24/25. That was like almost a year before Colbert got canceled. Or no, 9/24/24. What else? And then what the fuck? Where did I read any of this stuff? I read this last poem at that guy Alec Moore did an open mic at Village Works Bookshop, which is this bookstore on St. Mark's Place. And I think you got 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure he gave you 10 minutes. So I read this poem, Introducer, which is the last poem in the book, and it went over pretty well. It's another sort of mission statement about being an open mic host and sort of projecting all these fantasies onto it. So the book is tied to a lot of different things. I've read it a lot of different places. These early poems. This one poem, a few of these poems from my first book, which is called City Life, were on Don Yordy's blog. He recorded like a reading of me for his, he's got an excellent blog. I encourage people to check out Don Yordy's blog. So he's got a couple of videos of me reading on there that he filmed various places. I read this piece, oral novel at Poetry Festival, I think 2021 maybe. Cafe Life, I read this at Elizabeth Street Garden. It's a longer piece about the West Village and all the artists there. But it's sort of an epic on the page. Cafe Life. So I read that Elizabeth Street Garden. This poem, Because the Night, is about a trans person I met in the village. I read that at New York Poetry Festival, I think 21. These books, Single Room Occupancy and the Jack Kerouac book, were the books that I gave to Anselm Berrigan. They are not really probably the best chapbooks I ever wrote, but there's some interesting, I can see my New York Manhattan form sort of starting to take shape. And honestly, I think a lot of the politics in these. This poem I wrote on my birthday, but this was still when I was like quarantined. That whole winter of like 21, 22. The 21 I did a little bit of activity, like I did, I would do Elizabeth Street Garden reading because it was outside. KGB had some open mics that were outside. Um, Hannah and I did that reading at KGB. That was like all summer of 21. So it's like I was doing stuff in 21, but like I wasn't really that social. I didn't really have a friend group or a social group. I was just sort of like still isolated. But I was like, I was doing a little bit. I was doing video at Poetry Project, but like I lived alone. I wasn't really spending that much time with people other than, whenever I went to work or an open mic or something like that. Otherwise, I was just sort of walking around getting to know Manhattan. I'd never lived in Manhattan. I'd never really actually spent that much time there, like really soaking it in. And so I basically spent a year or two just like getting to know every fucking riding around on my scooter. That summer of 21, that's when I had that scooter. and that was just the fucking greatest, just writing that around Manhattan. And then this single room occupancy book and the Kerouac book were like Winter 21, back into isolation, doing sort of like a modernist, trying to absorb that aspect. Those first few books, at that time, I was still like obsessed with like historical psychogeography, trying to learn from and connect with the artists that had lived in that area. That's what this poem Cafe Life is about, just like all of the village beatnik and poets and bums and people that had read in these streets and these cafes and all this stuff in the West Village and the East Village downtown. And then single room occupancy is more about like the Ukraine war is starting, and thinking about it's called single room occupancy because I was living alone and I was discovering all these like things that had used to be single room occupancy hotels like in Midtown that are now, I don't know, luxury hotels or whatever. It's like that's where all the men lived. All like Lieutenant Dan and people like that. They all lived in like single room occupancy, itinerant kind of transient hotels and shit. And my most watched vlog actually is called Single Room Occupancy, and it's from this same time. It's on Don Yorty's blog, and this is all about politics, economics, war, but it was written in early 2022. Biden was still president. I'm discovering Manhattan. The writing I was doing when it was coming out of the pandemic, coming out of Ohio for a year. So I was just like, I was waiting for like words to come to me fully secreted. And so that continued through this kind of single room occupancy book. And you start to see me sort of get back, like writing longer pieces. But there's a lot of things that are just like these kind of spots of remark or whatever. And then, these are like more kind of like tall, thin poems, like kind of like a William Carlos Williams or almost like objectivist, but you know, that's what what was reflected to me in the architecture or whatever of that kind of like first year in Manhattan, living in Manhattan. And then this Bloomsday, there was a pretty big gap between this city life book. This was like June 21 I put this together for the poetry festival, really. I think my last Ohio chapbook was like maybe December or something 21, and then I didn't put out another chapbook until like what, February 22. So that was like 6 months. And then I put out the Kerouac and the single room occupancy back to back. It was like February, March, just because I didn't, they weren't as long. The chapbooks that I was writing at that point were really in like 20, 30 pages at most. So it was less paper, so you could print more of them. And then this Bloomsday one, like I said, this is when I started listening to like podcasts. I started listening to fucking Dana Carvey and David Spade. And then I was listening to Howard Stern on YouTube, the old stuff. And so this Bloomsday, it's like the poems start to be longer. I remember sitting mostly in Washington Square Park. I wrote this book like mostly in Washington Square Park. And when you're sitting writing in a book, you feel like you're just writing like this really, really long poem. And then you type it up and it's like it's only 4 pages or 5 pages or something. But like in a tiny notebook, it's like 8 pages or 10 pages. And to be honest, they were meant to be read. They were written to be like read. I don't know, almost like stand-up comedy routines or something. This poem, Hot and Ready, is like I wrote it on the bench on West 4th Street in like Charles or something like, or no, not Charles, like maybe Bank, sort of like near uh God, Lalabo. I think it's right in front of Lalabo. The bench is right in front of Lalabo. And I used to walk there every fucking day. I'd walk down Bleecker and up West 4th Street like every fucking day forever while I lived in that apartment in Chelsea. That was like my thing. I'd immediately walk down 8th or Ninth Avenue into the village and walk down to Bleecker Park. And so I wrote this whole poem on West 4th Street. And it's Asylum Street is what West 4th Street was called back in the day before they had the grid and all that. And so it's thin and long like West 4th Street is. And I've read that a few times, actually. I read it at my feature at Shades of Green, which was September 12th, 22. It was literally the Monday right before the open mic started. Maybe it was September 11th. Was it fucking September 11th? I'm pretty sure the Poetry Festival was September 11th because it was like the day after the Poetry Festival. And so I had a feature. I read this fucking poem, Hot and Ready, which I think maybe mentions 9/11. There's a reference, yeah, it references 9/11. That's why I read it. But I've read it a couple times. I read it at Kenny's open mic. That was probably in bad taste when I read all my 9/11 poems on 9/11. That was maybe bad taste. But in any case, I've read this Hot and Ready poem at both uh, Shades of Green featured set and Near's Tavern for my featured set. So I don't know why. For whatever reason, that's like a favorite to read. Not that it's like some exceptional piece that people like, really, but. And so, like I said, the Bloomsday book, it's really meant to be two words. It's meant to be Bloomsday. It's not meant to be Bloomsday. It's meant to be Bloomsday. I thought that was a good title, but no one has ever really pronounced it that way. And these, I don't know. I probably just read it various open mics. You can see that the poem's getting a little bit wilder, a little bit wider. But like I said, they were meant to be these like long, effusive, just like rants or something, rather than the earlier stuff, which is more a little bit more measured and paced out. These were meant to just be like da 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 da. I like all these references to the New York City novels list. That's when the New York Times came out with their list of like the greatest New York City novels. And so I was self-consciously trying to write like a New York. This is my New York City novel, City Life. It's meant to just be this epic, I don't know, unreadable, postmodern. And then FEMA coffins. This is when I started doing stand-up comedy. This June 22. So my the poems started to be a little bit more like stand-up comedy routines or something. And then this open mic book, this was like when I really started just like throwing myself. There was a month like August, September 22 where I was just like doing all of these fucking open mics. I need to get back to that. Where it's just like I was going to every fucking thing all over the place. And you got to look at it like I was thinking about this the other day. An open mic is like a performance. Like just because you're not booked on something, it's like I can go and do a midnight show at fucking Tiny Cupboard. Like if I was booked on that, I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, fuck, I'm going to Tiny Cupboard to do a midnight show. That's awesome. But it's like if you don't have a show, the open mic is your show. Like you can't really get frustrated, like, oh, nobody's booking me on something. It's like until you're booked, you need to be out going to open mics. And it's exciting. Like my intention was not to be super domestic and in a relationship for the last 3 years. My intention was to like, I love going out and doing every fucking show I can do and every club I can do. And so that's sort of what this book was about. This open mic thing was just about sort of my mission statement about just like, I got my MFA from the streets of New York, streets of Boston, Brooklyn, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Paris, New Orleans, Austin, Nashville, Cleveland. Reading my poetry in bars, open mic nights, 2 features and a sign up sheet on your right. 2 poems are 3 minutes, 1 poem 2 minutes, $5 5 minutes. 2 poems, 3 songs. Buy an item from the menu. Waiting on the list, having to listen to every unknown poet, anonymous in the U.S. and abroad, other languages, mine. So I'm like, this is my mission statement about like the alternative to fucking MFAs is like just doing open mics, traveling around, going to different cities, signing up on the fucking list, mixing it up with the other poets, the local poets, the people who are really in it, and just doing a show. Just wherever the fuck you can, wherever you can. Go to Secret Poor, go to fucking Tiny, go to fucking Brooklyn Made, go to fucking, you know, Pete's Candy Store, whatever it is, wherever they're doing a fucking open mic where there's poets or whoever, comedians, whatever you do, musicians. And so I don't know. This open mic book in here is pretty good. It's got some nice pieces. You can tell there's like a gothic Manhattan style that like I think I was able to capture in this that I think really does reflect the city and like kind of has like the essence of the city. This poem Palo Alto, that's the poem that Ashley was like obsessed with. Probably never should have written that one. A couple of these poems are like sort of dedicated to my grandpa. They're around the time that he passed away. Old Milwaukee and AmVets. Those were both like right around when my grandpa passed away. So they're sort of, they sort of have the essence of him. AmVets, Old Milwaukee, like. So yeah, there's this book is connected to a lot of other things. It's been read a lot of different places. People, a lot of people are intimately involved and related to these poems, have witnessed these poems. And I think it does. I mean, this is 5 years in New York City and counting. You know, this hasn't even got my newest chapbook in it. I think the newest version I have is 560 pages. But like I said, it's like you can read it. It is like chapters almost. And even though it's this abstract thing and it jumps around in time and it's sort of like language poetry or whatever you want to call it, deconstruction, it's more like cartoons. I don't really, language poetry is a little bit like humorless to me or like flavorless. I'd like to think my poetry has a little bit more kind of playful, just pure essence. It's a little bit less politically kind of dry. It's a little bit more just like an abstract painting. It's just like the joy of paint, the joy of flavor, color, texture to balance out all of the, political or philosophical or daily kind of factual details. I want to have both. I want to have the dream world and this sort of abstract beauty, but also the literal and kind of like thinking. And the narrative is in there, but it sort of jumps around. And like I said, it's a companion to the vlogs. If you watch the vlogs, a lot of these poems are in the vlogs at various, you know, venues and circumstances. You could probably edit a version of the book just from readings in the vlogs. And so the book is sort of embedded in the vlogs and vice versa. You read this, you watch the vlogs, and you get a full picture of the auto. That's the work that I've been doing. You know, maybe that's like a little bit of a. It's how do I make that clear to an audience of potential consumers or something? It's like that's the project. Is like you can watch the movies on YouTube and then you can read the book and it's sort of like getting uh the book is like fan fiction of the vlogs, the novelization of the film. And so I'd like to get, I wish I had just like, I'd love to get like 1,000 copies of this book like out into the world. Uh, because it works, it's meant to work in a lot of different ways. It's autobiographical, it's a novel, but it's also like just an epic poem, a travel log, a diary. There's a lot of the modern political situation in there, the war, the inflation. I've got a poem called Stagflation that I fucking wrote in 22. I talk about quantitative easing. I talk about finance. Like I said, there's the whole political sequence. I talk about how late night is dying. I mentioned fucking Charlie Kirk way before he got shot. So it's sort of a portrait of the era. It's the war and peace of autobiographical poetry. And it's meant to be like a New York book. For me, like I said, when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, any kind of that was like a huge part of like Royal Tenenbaums, New York movie, Woody Allen. A lot of the reason why you watched Woody Allen because like you just wanted to see New York. He just made like movies about New York, poet New York, Lorca. There were certain things that were just like that was a part of the appeal. So writing sort of like a classic New York book, a classic my show is like a New York show, like fucking girls or Sex in the City, or it's like if you're a New York head, if you're a junkie, if you're a fan or whatever, it's meant to sort of fulfill that. This is like this book, it's like it's saturated. It's meant to look like Manhattan. It's meant to be, sort of a physical embodiment. It's meant to be the power broker, really. It's meant to be, New York just sort of invites that kind of scale. It's kind of empirical, big, but also little. The poems are little, the words are little, but they add up to this giant behemoth of a thing. And Robert Moses making a giant thing, even though you have no money, even though you have no resources, creating a sense of hugeness, epicness, magnitude. Um, oh, there's that book by Kenneth Goldsmith, right? There's the Arcades Project, which is Walter Benjamin's compendium of quotes about Paris. And then there's Kenneth Goldsmith put this book together, Gotham, which is a riff on the Arcades Project, but it's about New York in like the 60s and 70s and shit. The capital. It's called Capital. And it's just all these quotes from all these different literary whatever sources about New York. And so it's a collage. It's quotes from other stuff. It's not original writing. But it's like you get it helps you it kind of reflects the breadth and the hugeness and the polyphony of New York. New York is this myriad of points of view, of voices, of stories. And so the idea that the book reflects that. It's a huge book. It's like fucking, 500 pages or 800 pages or something. It's like a fucking reference book, it looks like a dictionary or something. And it is almost like a reference book. I mean, it's organized by section. There's a whole section on Maplethorpe. I think Benjamin's got a section on Baudelaire. And so to some degree, I wanted my book to have that same kind of like big, like if you're going to write a book about New York, it's got to be like underworld. It's got to be. And I wrote this book in New York, in the streets, on the subway. A lot of the language or the gibberish is like things I heard people say that I misheard. things I just picked out of the air. So it's like you're really getting a lot of voices from the city, voices on buses, voices on trains, voices in restaurants, voices in cafes, voices of my friends, things I overheard, whatever it is, things I saw, little moments, little scenes, mental move, whatever it is. And being saturated in the city, in the landscape, in the theater, you know, the uh panoply of the whole panopticon of the the polyphonic uh spectacle of all of it going on everywhere. I want the book to feel like endless and engulfing, and but also friendly and neighborly, and you can go in anywhere, you can wander around. It's like a magical labyrinth. There is no wrong way to read it. And the same way that like Ulysses is like Dublin. Like my book is not that organized. Like Ulysses, every book, everything is so defined and exact, and there's a whole system of whatever, there's like layers and layers. This book is way more kind of just like this shifting, organic. I'm more just like this flypaper or like a receiver of just whatever happened. These were the experiences I had. These were my reactions to this environment. This was like the poetry life as an open mic clown. Matthew Silver, is in the open mic poem. That's like halfway through the book. That's not even like recent. So it's like you're getting all these worlds via Karada, celebrities that I interacted with, whatever it is, places that went out of business, moments in time. I think it would make sense to other people. I think if you read this book, you can piece it together. There's a lot of sex, there's a lot of, kind of in your face sexual language, a lot of references to other things, movies, what have you. It's sort of a one man show. It's sort of theater. It's really meant to be. It's like a giant play, except it's all thrown together. It's not really laid out. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that's just like in the box. And then you can put it together in your head. Or that's probably happen automatically. You'll I think people can infer what's going on. That's what we do. As human beings, we're trying to figure out what's going on. And so we'll take any hint and deduce as much as we can from it. Oh, I think this is about this. I think it sounds like it's referring to this. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a market or for a giant book that's like sort of abstract gibberish poetry and a bunch of inside jokes. And I'd like to believe that this is going to become some giant bestseller. Like to me, this is Infinite Jest. This is better than Infinite Jest. If you read David Foster Wallace, it's like Jesus Christ. It's kind of purple prose, to be honest. He's trying really hard to sound like a great writer. That's how it feels to me. He's really trying to like make his prose sound like high flown. And this is like the opposite. This I'm really just trying to sound how people talk, basically transcribing. thought in speech. But I also try to say things in as advanced and complicated or whatever detailed, specific a way as I can. And if it has an unusual syntax or something, then that's part of what it takes to say it that way. It's meant to be something that's like unraveled and thought over, and you have to figure it out. But I don't really like a lot of the maudlin rhythms and pseudo literary voice that people think is like great writing. To me, this book is like an enjoyable experience to listen to. And it's if you want the story of like poetry life, entertainment life, show business life, cabaret life, life downtown, Central Park's in there, life at Poetry Project, life among the poets, life with Ashley. If you want to see, young Ashley popping up here and there, and various whatever open mic scene people. It's all in there for you to make sense of. All right. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. Nobody watched, nobody liked. I probably got 14 or 15 clicks, but for whatever reason, no one really wanted to hear me talk about my fucking poetry book for 3 hours. That's kind of weird. Almost 4 hours. I've been doing almost 4 hours. Holy shit. I probably could have done something actually productive. Thank you for watching, and now I have the whole rest of the day to actually work on things that might have durability. I hope people watch this later. Maybe they will. Thank you for watching, and like it and subscribe. I lost a subscriber. What happened? Did they die? I hope they're still alive. Unless they unsubscribe, then fuck them. Just kidding. All right. Well, anyway, have a great day, and watch the open mic tomorrow. It's Dylan Week. Sign up.